Hi, welcome to Quilted Cactus. My name is Tony, and I am bringing to you a new pattern by Petal Sewing Patterns. This tutorial is over the bag. It's called Allegra. It's a nice large style bag, more like maybe a messenger style bag, if you will. And it features her nice little accent sides with that triangle in the center. You can do a centerpiece or all one solid color, which I'll show you what I did with my solid one here in just a moment. This is a great bag to make. It is an easy bag to make. I mean, I would go so far as beginner friendly if you don't want to do any of the quilting on it. You just, of course, have to know your zippers because it is a zipper closure. But other than that, it's a great bag to make. As you can see on this one, I did a mixture of colors, and it's very roomy on the inside. It comes with a slip pocket and a zip pocket, so you have those options in your bag, like that. Let me show you my solid one. Now this one I did something a little different. I made this a solid color. I thought it would be really nice. Let's see what it looked like as one solid. But what I did on this one to make it more interesting is instead of quilting on the side accents, I chose to quilt the center panel. Since I didn't do a feature center panel, I made my solid feature. This cute little thing, piece here, or accent piece, you can put your tag there if you have a nice small tag, like I did in the red one. However, on this one, I thought it would be nicer. I just put a nice little homemade metal tag there. And then I chose to put my tag here in the bottom in one of the side panels. So you got that, and I also quilted the back. A very, very nice bag, very, very roomy bag. Again, I did it all one solid color. This one I chose to do the webbing because if you use a full sheet of vinyl, you won't have enough to do your strap if you want to do a strap like this. So you would want to have an extra roll of vinyl to cut just your strap off. So I just thought I'd mention that real quick. But it still looks very nice with webbing. It's a great bag. This bag is also roomy enough to fit your iPad. This is the largest iPad there is. I mean, it fits in there very nicely. And then as you can see, it zips shut. So an option to this would be a great bag to put your tablet in. You can put a little bit of extra foam on the sides, or of course you can just carry it in your sleeve. I mean, or not extra foam, but you can foam it, is what I'm trying to say. The only foam that I have in this bag here is the center panels, and then I put a little piece of foam at the bottom between my lining and for my feet, so my feet didn't, you didn't feel my feet. I just like that little foam at the bottom of the bag. But other than that, this is a great bag. Please join me with the tutorial. I appreciate it. And then if you want to purchase the pattern, please click the link below. I am an affiliate with Ivana and Petal Sewing Patterns, so you can purchase that, and that will help me out just a little bit. So thank you so much for watching my tutorial. Thank Ivana for allowing me to make this tutorial on her bag. My first feature tutorial on a day release, so I'm very excited about that. And just want to thank everybody for all your time that you spend watching my channel. Thank you so much. Hi, welcome to Quilted Cactus. Today we are going to sew the new pattern by Petal Sewing Patterns, and the new bag is called Allegra. This is the bag. This is the bag that we're going to be sewing today. Now this isn't the one that we're doing the tutorial on. This is the tester bag that I made. You'll see she is a large bag. Her finished size is 11 inches tall, 12 inches wide, and 3.5 inches deep. So she's a nice deep bag. She's a nice big bag. This is kind of more of a messenger style size of bag, that I guess you could say. She has this unique design where you've got the center, or you can make a center, we can use a center panel, pardon me, and then a place to put a label or anything, you know, your custom label or another label in place of your label. She also gives you the option to quilt the sides if you choose to do that. That is not required. That is an option that she gives you. She does supply you with like a template, and also she supplies you with the measurements. If you don't want to use the template, you can always use measurements. You have this nice gusset, so you can have your bottom a different color than your sides. The back of it is constructed the same way. There is no exterior pockets in this bag, but it is also made with just one strap, where you can cinch it up to make it a shoulder bag, or you can extend it all the way out, and you can also make it a crossbody if you'd like. It is a zipper closure. And it's a nice roomy bag. There you go. And then you've got a slip pocket on the side here. And then you have, of course, your zipper pocket. Now, the zipper pocket and the slip pocket is made just slightly different than your typical zip and slip pocket. It's not sewn directly onto the lining, a full piece of lining. It is sewn in, and then you've got lining side pieces where it's stitched in. So if you don't want to do that, you can make adjustments. However, this is fine. This way is a nice way to make a zipper pocket. But yes, it's a nice roomy bag. So this is the bag that we're going to be creating. Now, the bag that's going to be in the tutorial, I am making it all one solid color. Now, with the size of this bag, a full roll of vinyl will not get you a long strap with this bag. To make, if you want a solid collar. So in the tutorial, we will be using webbing. So I'm going to go over real fast on how this is created. This is your basic 1-inch vinyl strap, where you cut it 4 inches. And then you fold it in half. You make your center line. You fold it in half. And then once you fold it in half, then you'll fold the pieces up together to where you have that you have your 4 layers there. So if you have a domestic, or you have a machine that doesn't like layers, either pick your materials to suit your machines, or you can go with webbing like I am for my bag, for the bag we're doing the tutorial on. And then she has you do a nice little feature where you've got the 4 rows of stitching. So she does give you measurements where you will sew your inner stitching and then your exterior stitching. It's usually easier to do it that way. Sew your inners and then sew your exteriors, and then that gives you that nice look of having all 4 stitches on the strap. And it's kind of like your basic strap if you're used to making a vinyl strap. I've gone over that in previous videos, so I just wanted to give you a brief, mention of how that is done in our tutorial today. I will go over the pieces as I pull them out. I'm not going to go over them prior to, simply because I already have one panel created in order to make this tutorial to show you where I'm going with the tutorial, as well as I did something a little different as far as the panel itself, and I will go over that with you as well on how I created my center panel look. Again, because it's a solid bag, I should say, again, it is a solid bag, so I wanted to do something a little different on the bag itself. So with the bag that we're gonna have, I chose this beautiful, it's called Blaze, and this is a petal, I'm sorry, this is a petal pattern, but this is a Tulip Bee vinyl. It's her signature smooth, and this is the color Blaze. So I thought, being that this is being recorded during the fall, and as well as the pattern being released in the fall time, here on, I'm not sure where Ivana, where she lives, if she has a nice fall in her area in which she lives. However, here in the States, it is fall time, and where I live, we have, well, we're supposed to have fall right now, but it's a little unseasonably warm right now, which is fine. But anyways, so I thought I'd go with a little bit of a fall color. Again, I wanted to be all a solid color. So what I chose to do with my bag is I chose to take the center panel and put the quilting on the center panel in the same manner as she has you do on the side panel. So I thought that would be a real interesting look, something neat, and just do a little bit different. I will go over with you how I created this. Again, it is in the same manner, in the same measurements as she has you do it on the side panels. So what I tell you to do here, you would just, if you don't want to do center and you just want to do sides, then you will know what to do on your sides if you choose to do that. But this, I did create one panel, so this is the back panel. I did the back panel. I did not do the front panel because the front panel has that nice little accent in the front. So I wanted to do the accent in the tutorial. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to quilt this. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I am going to move the camera to an angle so you can see my work surface. I'm hoping my lighting is okay as far as it not being a too much of a glare when I show you how I create this panel. Let me get my ruler real quick. I have my ruler. There it is. I apologize. I'm just going to grab my ruler. I had it a moment ago, but I have misplaced it. Okay, so in her pattern, what she does, again, she does give you a little template if you want to use the template to reference and like put starting and stopping points if you don't want to use a ruler. But she gives you the measurements to do that if you don't want to do that, which I didn't. I just did measurements with when I did the sides of the test bag. So what I'm doing with this one is I'm going to use a removable pen. Now you have options. You can use a chalk pen, but be careful with your chalk pen because chalk pens have that little metal end with the grooves in it. So of course, so your chalk can get out. So you got to be careful with that because you don't want to mark your piece with that chalk pen or score it with the chalk pen, I guess you might want to say. Or you can use a silver marking pen to make your lines. I'm going to go ahead and use a silver marking pen because the other one I did the chalk pen, but again, you're rolling that on there, and the silver marking pen that I had when I made that panel was not a good one, and I had a hard time removing the lines from my pieces when I was using it. So I used my chalking pen. However, I have since got a better silver marking pen. This one actually comes from Wonderground Fabrics. I actually got this, actually was a gift, I guess you could say, in a class that I took. So this is a little bit better than the one I was using. The one I had, it was Amazon, and it smeared a lot. Just so you know, in case you don't want to use something like that, just from my experience with this pen, they're kind of hollow. They come in refills like this, and the pens, you get pens and they're hollow. I mean, it works. it's not that it doesn't work, it smears and it runs very thick. So just beware when you purchase, if you purchase this type of silver marking pen off of Amazon. I just had a problem with it, like I said, just being very thick and just smears really bad. This has a thinner line, and it doesn't like ooze out or come out very heavy, which that's what I like. Okay, so what she does in her pattern is she gives you a starting point from the quilting template for the side pieces. So when you do the sides, she gives you on this side of the panel, she gives you a wider measurement to start with before you do the smaller quilting lines. Okay, now with that same principle, because you've got your seam allowance here, and it's okay because the way you're going in that direction, you're not losing the design of the bag, if that makes sense. Okay, however, with this particular bag, because the design, or I shouldn't say bag, but this particular design, because it's in the center, and your design has to flow at equal measurements. If I were to only do that wider margin on one side, this whole thing would be completely off. So what I did is the wider margin that she gives you on the side, the long side of the side panel, I did that on both sides of my accent. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and lower this down so you can see my work surface. I'm going to raise it up just a smidgen so I can tilt it down for you to look. If you can just bear with me here just a second, I just need to loosen this up a quick second. Sorry, I didn't mean to put my hand over the camera. There we go. Pardon me for just a second. I just want to get you adjusted so you can see. Okay. So I am going to go on each side of this panel here, and this is the top of the bag. So the wider edge is the top of the bag. So I'm going to go from each side of the long side and make that measurement, the same measurement that she gives you to go in the side of the long. Let's pull one of these pieces out. I'll show you one of the sides. Here's one of the sides that for this particular bag. So she gives you a measurement that goes in. This is where the wider measurement, the wider line goes, is on the long side. I'm taking that measurement from her pattern and using that on each long side. So I'm just going to draw a line, a nice line. So that's my start line right there. You can see that. I'm doing that on both, again, both long sides. Okay, that one's a little nice, and that's a little darker. And also to note, in case you are a newer bag maker, if you are using a silver marking pen, please make sure you have a water wipe, a water-based wipe. Do not use like a chemical wipe or a wipe that has cleaner in it, or alcohol pad. This is the wipes that I use. It's called water wipes. Got them off of Amazon. This is like 90, it's 0 fragrance, 0 alcohol, and it's like 90% water. That is what you want to use when you wipe on any of your vinyl. But as I was saying, if you use a silver marking pen, even the white chalk, but especially a silver marking pen, make sure as soon as you're done, you wipe those marks off of your piece of vinyl. It's very important, because if you don't, the silver pen will stay on and you'll never get it off. That's just a word of caution. Okay. So I've got my 2 side marks here, and those are going to be my starting points of my smaller, skinnier lines to make the quilt make the pattern that I'm wanting to do. So I'm going to go in now. On my original one, I drew lines top to bottom, and then I found the intersection and drew like a little hash mark. That became really busy, and it was really hard to see. Number one, because I was using the chalk, and that was not showing up as great as the pen would, because I didn't want to be really heavy with the chalk pen, that metal roller on the chalk pen, because this is a smooth vinyl. But what I'm going to do is, I know this first line is not going to intersect until I get to the very bottom. And I just know that because I did the first one. And I'm just going back and forth. I just keep flipping it back and forth to make my line. And I can see it right at there is a small point where it's going to intersect barely at the very end. And I'm going to stop my pen right there on the one side. So there's where the intersect. Oh, the lighting, I'm so sorry. The lighting is not great. So there's the intersect point there. So that's where, when I stitch this, quilting it, when I stitch on that, I'm going to stop there, turn, and go back down. And that way we can keep that nice clean look. Now I'm going to mark my next one. And I'm going to go so far down where I think it might intersect, but I'm not going to go all the way down, because that way when I draw my next line, I'll know approximately where it's going to intersect. That way I don't have so many lines up here at one point. I'm telling you, it just became really overwhelming with all of those lines that I had. If it goes over just a smidgen, that will be fine. It won't be that much, but I'm just going really slow to make this. Obviously you want to go slow on your projects to make sure you've got a nice look. And I really liked the way that panel turned out. It was just something I decided to just kind of do, just something a little different. And I'm just gonna, there we go. So there, I got that. Here's my next point there, like that. And I'm just gonna keep going. I have another line here. Gonna go so far down, flip it. There's not too many lines, so I won't fast forward because there's not a whole lot of lines here. But when I start quilting it, we'll start with quilting. I'll do that in slow-mo, but then once I go over the first line, then I will fast forward the so there you go. So we're getting there, and I did go all the way up, even though it was just the tiniest little bit that's showing. I liked that tiny little bit is exposed at the top. I'll show you here what I'm talking about in just a second. I mean, I just went all the way up until there was no more space left. Ooh, that was good. That was perfect, almost. I'll show you here in 2 seconds what I'm talking about. This one is smearing just a little bit, but not near as much. Plus, the I should be wiping off my ruler too a little bit, but okay. So there's all my lines right there. You can see them all, and you can see, even though that's going to be hidden, part of it's going to be hidden in the seam allowance, I still drew it, and I'll show you why. Because if you look at the one that I already did, let's see if I can get it close enough to you can see at the very top right there. If you can see at the very top, I mean, it is just the smallest little bit you could see, and the camera is not picking it up as well as it is in, I guess you could say live, but you can see that tiny little stitch. And I think, honestly, I think that completes the full pattern. Okay, so there this is. So that's ready to be stitched on. Okay, now what did I do with my piece of foam? Let me grab my piece of foam real quick. All right, let me grab, oh, there it is. All right, so I'm gonna grab my piece of foam. Now the type of foam that I'm using for this project, it's the Bosal, where it's one side is tricot, which is like a webbing of sorts. And then the other side is a smooth, it's kind of, I don't know if it's like a layer of fabric, but it's not actual foam on the top. It's really hard to explain. If you're used to using the Pelon foam, obviously use that. That's what I've been using. I have used for years. The reason why I'm using the Bosal is I just wanted to try it out because I hear a lot of people talk good things about it. So I wanted to try the Bosal. I do like it. I do like this nice softer side where both, instead of both sides being tricot, I do like the softer side for this piece. And then I put the tricot side down is what I do on the how I set this up with my foam. Okay, and I apologize, I forgot to change my thread out. So give me a quick second, I'll be right back. I'm going to change out my thread. And then once I get the thread changed out, I will go and demonstrate a little bit on the first couple of lines. And then I'll fast forward through the remaining quilting of it. So I will be right back. Okay. All right, so we are back. I'm going excuse me, show you how I do that. I'm going to do this line here first, and then I will go ahead and do the second one, just to show you where how I pivot on that point. And then that one, then from that point forward, then I will go ahead and do fast forward motion in the bag. So I'm going to do the one. Now, typically what I do when I start this is I will do an exterior and then go and do some interior just to hold the placement of it. I'll like do these two exterior and then do the interior. That basically holds this piece onto my foam because I am not putting any spray foam. I am not doing any side basting on it just yet until I get done with my quilting. But for the tutorial purposes, I will do this one first, then this one, where I show the pivot, and then once I get done with that, and then I'll go into my typical quilting motion and of course the fast forward as I stated. So I'll go ahead and start with this one. Now I am quilting at a 5-point stitch length, and I am sewing on a Juki 1541S, so it is a little stronger than most industrials, and it is stronger than a domestic. This is like a step higher than the 1181s. So if that helps you out as far as what type and how this machine does. I do have my presser foot raised up a little bit because with the vinyl, it still will leave some marks, but with this vinyl, the presser foot, the pressure of that can tear into this vinyl because again this is a smoother, softer vinyl. And I always back stitch at the beginning and the end of every stitching at the top, of course not in the points, but at the beginning of every point where it is not going to show up in my seam allowance. And you just mainly want to go slow as far as doing your stitching. And you want to try to stay true to the line as best as you can. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to hold on to my vinyl. That way it doesn't shift while I'm stitching it. You of course want to cut your foam a little larger than your piece. If you don't, you can have where your foam can disappear up under the piece. You also may want, depending on your machine, you may want to not have the foam in your seam allowance. So when you do baste it on, you may want to account for your seam allowance. I can use this foam in my seam allowances, so I will not be taking it out of my seam allowance. I will be basting this on in like 1/8 of an inch, a little over 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I won't need to concern myself about the foam in my seam. It won't disturb my piece. Okay, so there's my first one is there. So I'm going to go in and then I'm going to do the next line, and then I'll show you what I do. Again, I'm going to start it here. I'm going to do a quick back stitch. Basically, I just go 1, maybe 2 in. I know that stays within my seam allowance. And then I'm going to go down to where that point meets, where that V is. Just be careful not to go outside of your lines. And then when you get close to that point, I would just usually take a bite. I kind of take a peek, another little bite. I see I'm very, very close to it, and I'm concerned that my seam allowance may be too big, so I'm going to rotate it, do a hand crank, take it down, raise it just slightly so you don't lose a stitch where it can hook on to the bobbin. And then I'm going to raise my presser foot, do a turn of my piece, and then continue on. Make sure I'm on the line, and I'm holding my piece down because I am on the other side, so I'm going to hold it and stitch on. So I'm going to go ahead and continue on doing this, and then I will come back once this gets quilted. We'll come back and continue on with the piece. That'll work. So there we go. So there is my quilting on my piece of vinyl. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my scissors and I'm going to trim this down. Basically, if you baste it to where it's just, you know, outside of your seam allowance, then you would go up against that. Because since I just basically go along at an angle like this. That way the foam does not peek out behind that, because then when you start sewing it, you don't want to, you know, that foam to impede your seam allowance or your stitching when you try to sew, or it's not an accurate stitch seam allowance, I should say. So we'll just get this trimmed down like that. Real nice. Make sure all my threads are gone. So let's trim this off here. Still see a little bit of silver on here. See, that's the one thing I'm just, like I say, it's the one thing I'm not big on silver marking pens, because it's in them grooves. Sometimes it's really hard to get off. I just didn't want to take the chance of this, that chalk pen, that metal little wheelie on that chalk pen to scratch my vinyl. Okay, there we go. All right, let's get rid of that. So that is ready. All right, I'm going to take this, I'm going to set it aside. Now in the pattern, the next steps she has you do is the shoulder strap, but again, I kind of went over that with you briefly, since we aren't going to do the pattern shoulder strap. And I'll show you the shoulder strap that I selected once we complete the bag. Okay, so let me get that side piece there. So, and then also she has you prep the, let's see. Yeah. So the next step is going to be the little, what she refers to as the decorative patch. Basically what this is that little piece that's in the front of the bag here. The decorative patch is this little piece here. Now with this particular bag, I'm putting my name tag on the back panel, which I haven't done it just yet. I know I already, so I still have to add that. But what I'm going to put on this little piece here is I'm just going to put a handmade label on it. Let me grab that. I think that would be really cute with this because my labels are a little larger. They're not a small label because I don't have any of the metal labels. I just have the cork ones, which are quite nice. I like my cork labels. However, in the color, I wanted to just kind of blend in the bag a little bit. And my hardware color is antique gold, or some may call it brass. So I'm going to put that in the center, and that will be at the front of my bag, so I think that's pretty neat. Look very nice. Okay, so on the decorative patch, she gives you, you have stabilizer piece that you put on the back of your decorative patch. And then once you place that, and you need to make sure you place it in the area that she tells you, because you do use that as a guideline and on this next step. So once you do that, you're going to get some double-sided tape, and you're going to tape the bottom the bottom and the side pieces here. Okay, leave this, do not tape this. This will be hidden in your seam allowance, this top piece here. So you're only going to tape the two sides and the very bottom. Okay, make sure they're down, and then you're going to take these pieces and you're going to fold them in over the stabilizer. So I'm going to, it doesn't say, let's see, yeah, it just says fold over the stabilizer. She doesn't say whether you go in from the sides first or the bottom up first. So that's, of course, that is up to you how you want to do that. This piece doesn't want to come off. There we go. I'm going to go top up. Just be careful when you fold it up. To leave your sides, though, open a little bit. Don't close these little pieces down completely. Just fold it up like that and leave that little open, because you will trim that little corner off, but you don't trim it off until you fold over your sides. So now I'm going to fold over my sides like this. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to pinch it here in this little corner. Gets a nice little pinch, and I'm just going to kind of press it down good, so where you've got that little peak sticking up. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Press it down, and then you're going to take your scissors. That is not the one I want to use. I want these, and you're going to go in and at an angle and snip that piece. Do not snip it straight on. Snip it at an angle a little bit like that, where you still see a little bit like that. You've got that little bit of up still. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of take it and push it in a little bit. I kind of just push it up a little bit like that. Because you're going to stitch this on, and if you completely cut straight on, then you will see that. So you want to kind of make sure when you sew it on, you kind of have that in a little bit as you sew it on. I'm going to go ahead and trim these little dog ears off the top. All right. Now for your placement, she does give you like a little spot where you could cut out of your decorative patch piece here to do your label placement. I am going to go ahead, I'm just going to do it by finding my centers. And I'll need to find the center of this piece anyways, so I'm just going to go ahead and get that marked. Obviously I can't cut at the bottom because that is going to show, but I'm going to use, whoop, that is a guide at the top. Oh, sorry, I just dropped that. And then I'm going to get my little ruler and then just kind of go down. Let's see where she's got it. Because I think where it says label placement is pretty almost the same width as this. Let me find my center here. All right, I got my center of my little tag here, my little washer. All right, so let's get my centers figured out. I'm just gonna fold it and figure out where my center is from there. That'll probably be the best way of doing that. That's just how I'm figuring out the center. It would probably be a lot easier to cut that out and then make a mark, but I found my center, so this is where I want to put my washer, right here. So I want to just take this and place this right over that. Let's see. That's where I want it. I'm going to mark it where I'm going to cut for my washer. Well, this is a new X-Acto knife, and I think I need to not use it because the blade keeps falling out, and that's no good, right? Sorry, my blade keeps falling out on this new X-Acto knife. I can't get it tight enough. I always just cut just enough for my prongs to go through. I try not to overcut. I mean, sometimes it does happen, but I try not to overcut, because if it's a hair small, the prongs can usually stretch it out. And since there's already Decavil behind, I don't need to add any additional stabilizer. Let me wipe off these markings real fast since I've already made everything on my placements. And cut my holes. Make sure my tag's on the right direction. It wasn't. There we go. Oh yeah, that looks nice. I like it. All right. I always fold my prongs in. I always give them a little encouragement and throw a little bit of tape behind it. Let's do this instead. This is smaller. All right. So that's covered. That way it doesn't rub into the vinyl, because it's going to go right up against the vinyl on this bag here. All right. So now that's ready to go. And then what you're going to do is you're going to mark your center on your, mark the centers of your centerpiece. Maybe if I move the light up like that, that might be a little easier. And even though I've got that nice cute little V in the center, I still just want to kind of make sure that that is as accurate as it can be. So I'm going to just do that. I know my little tag will cover up that little bit, but again, I just kind of wanted to do that little tiny piece up at the top just to have that completion of the top of my bag. So you're going to take your little decorative piece here, center it up to your center panel, go ahead and clip it, and then you're going to top stitch all 3 sides. You can also baste to the top, but make sure it is a basting stitch, meaning keep it at no more than 1/8 of an inch from the top, because you do not want that stitching at the top to show, but you do want to use the basting stitch here. Make sure that the top stitching on this piece is the same stitch length as you did if you quilt this panel, so it does look consistent as far as the stitch length is. I just be careful, because I know sometimes when I go back and forth of stitching a bag versus doing top stitching, sometimes I do forget to change my stitch length back. So I just thought I'd mention that. So we're going to go ahead and push it down here. You can put a piece of little tape behind here to hold it down if you want. I think we should be okay as far as not shifting. But just make sure when you get to these little corners that you are catching that little bit of vinyl that kind of is that little peak, I guess you could say, or that where you did that little snip from that when those 2 pieces came together. So again, we're going to go at a top stitch length or top stitch seam allowance. Let's see, there we go. I'm going to get my ruler or my little thing out just to make sure that's tucked in nicely. There we go. Let's see. I always test it. I think I can go just the smidgen where it's not going to be that noticeable as far as my stitch being a real short stitch here. There we go. Nice. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch it at the up here, so that way it's closed off for when I do my top panel here. All right. Clean up my threads. There we go. There you go. So there is my cute little patch, decorative patch on the front of the bag. So this front piece here is completed right now. All right, so now you're going to grab your, let's get it here. It is called the upper front back, and it's a nice little shaped piece like this. It's got some little side angles and a nice little curve on the top. You're going to grab this piece. Of things to note, this is the top of your bag, and it is a drop-in lining, so you will make sure that you mark according to the seam allowance that she gives you, or the line that she gives you for the drop-in lining, because that's where you'll be doing your fold over up to that line. And when you place your stabilizer, make sure your stabilizer is placed just below the line. That way it is not interference in your fold over line. This particular vinyl, I do have, in case you are wondering, I do have some SF101, which is a woven interfacing on the back of all of my vinyl pieces, simply because, again, this is a soft vinyl and I wanted that structure because the vinyl does stretch a little bit, so I didn't want that my vinyl to stretch or pull. So I did that and on all of my pieces, and then the pieces that called for, like the Decaville or an interfacing stabilizer type of thing, that's where I did my Decaville. I do see that it did go over just a hair on one side, so let me clean that side. Let me clean that off real quick. I thought I cleaned up all of my pieces. There we go. That way I just don't see a wrong line when I go to sew my seams. Okay, so again, this is your upper, front, back. There will be two pieces of these because I've already used the one piece on the other. My centers are already marked. Make sure you have your top and your bottom centers marked on this piece. You're going to place it right sides together. If you have it properly marked as far as where you drop in line is going to go, that's going to be the widest part of this piece. So that is, and then the bottom side is going to be the more narrow part of the piece. Okay, so let's go right sides together. Go ahead and clip it in place. Mark your centers, center the piece. You will see a little bit of vinyl peek out at the sides. That is correct because this is these are angles and all kinds of fun shapes. You'll see a little bit of a peek of that. That is correct. And you're going to go ahead and sew this at the seam allowance that she gives you in the pattern. Crap, sorry about that. I wasn't my little heavy-footed. Let me make sure that my seam allowance is accurate. It is, I think. Just give me a quick second here. Sorry about that. That scared me. I didn't realize my foot hit that pedal that hard. Yeah, let me fix that line real quick. Wow. All right, we're going to go ahead and pause. All right, so we're going to go ahead, put it down, and sew it at the seam allowance that she gives you. Again, make sure you back stitch. Just take your time. Remember, you will have extra layers on here, so be, mindful of that additional layering when you get to the center. Okay, then you're going to take your vinyl piece and you're going to fold it up where your seam allowance is going to go up toward the top piece like that. Let me get my fingers out of the way. So you're going to fold this upwards and you're going to top stitch on the top piece here that you just sewed on. So let me get that, and then make sure you, if you need to roll it out a little bit, you can, depending on the vinyl. Obviously, if it is a thicker vinyl, you might want to roll it out some. Because I've got all these nice layers here, I'm going to go ahead and roll it a little bit, and then making sure you're at your top stitch length. Grab my threads, and we're going to top stitch again on the top piece with your seam allowance up towards the top of your bag. And I always back stitch there at the beginning and the end, even if it is a top stitch. Okay, there you go. So this is the very center of your bag right here. Now we are going to add our our side and front back pieces. Now when you cut this out, you will have a total of 4 pieces, and you will need to make sure you have mirror images of these pieces, meaning of course when you place your piece down and cut it, you want to cut 2 with the pattern words face up, 2 with the pattern words face down. That's how I say it that way, because that's how I tell myself to make sure I cut them right. So that way you've got 2 for your front and 2 for your back. Okay, now when you sew these on, because you're sewing at an angle, you have to place close attention to the way these go on. So number 1, you want to make sure when you sew them on the right sides first, so your long straight edge is what's sewn onto the bag. So I usually sometimes just take the piece, lay it down to the side before I put it on. That way I know I'm at the right angle. So what you want to do when you sew these on, you want to have a little bit, let's see if I can move this up a little bit, my tablet's in the way, a little bit hanging over, and it's about 1/4 of an inch that you want to hang over at the bottom. Do not go and pull this all the way up to the top and sew it on, or pull it all the way down towards the bottom to sew it on, because if you do, this will not line up properly. So you want to just take this piece here. What I try to do is I'll line it up at the bottom, and then I will either eyeball, 1/4 of an inch, or I will just simply just take my ruler and just check it, honestly, to make sure, because I have had to remove probably 3 of the 5 sides I've sewn on. On my tester bag, on the one I already put together of this, for this bag, I wasn't paying attention, and I had to just sit there and tell myself, okay, stop, measure, things of that nature. So just a word to the wise. And sometimes I do say things that most people might say, well, that's a given. I mention them mainly because, I'll tell you, I'll make a mistake, I'll let you know, just to give you a heads up, just so you are aware when you make this bag as well. Okay, so you're going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives you, and she's very good in her patterns about letting you know on each step what the seam allowance is. Some pattern designers, which is fine, will tell you at the beginning of the pattern what the seam allowance is, and then unless otherwise, given, then it's the same throughout the bag. But she does, Ivana does tell you throughout her bag pattern what the seam allowance is. So you always have that reminder what it is, because each designer has their own preferred seam allowance. So just sew that up, and then we'll take a peek and see if I did it right. That's always a thing. Let me trim those, and then let's see if hopefully we don't have to unstitch. Oh yeah, that worked out. So look, and you can see at the bottom, it is worked out, and it's barely a smidgen, if anything. Probably when I flatten it out and stitch it on, you probably won't even know that's even got the smidgen. But I'm going to sew the other one on first before I increase my stitch length. But there you is on that, so it looks really cute. Let's go ahead and sew this one on. Again, I am just kind of going to do the bottom part first to make sure I get that 1/4 of an inch. And then just give it some clips, and then we'll get this stitched on. Now you might, if you are concerned about bulk, you might, if you want, you can go in and snip just a little bit of your piece there. That could help alleviate some of the bulk. You've got that option. Just thought I'd throw that out there in case you're worried about issues with bulk on your bag and your seams, I should say. Okay. Okay, let's check this one out, make sure we're good with that. Yep, that looks good. All right, so you just want to check, and you just got to be careful. I know this vinyl, you have to be very careful because once you put holes in this vinyl, they don't typically come out for this particular vinyl. But I love the vinyl. It's very smooth. It's got a nice sheen to it. That's what I like about the Signature Tulip Bee Signature Smooth Vinyl. And then you're going to fold out. Once you get these on, you're going to fold your seam allowance out towards the sides here, like that. And then you're going to top stitch at the 1/8 of an inch. I've got my top stitch length back increased again, and then I'm going to go in. Let's see, I want to make sure I get it correct here on my thing placement. I just got to get my make sure I hit my right stride here on the seam allowance. There we go. Okay, so there is panel number, technically number 1, but panel number 2. So both of our panels are now complete. All right, so then once you get your panels together and completed, you'll set those aside. And then we're going to work on our strap connectors. Now I do have one strap connector already prepped a little bit. So I will show you how I accomplished this part of the strap connector that we currently have. Okay, so what I'm going to do is you're going to, number 1, mark the center of your strap. You will place a piece of Decoville light or some interfacing in the center that will assist the strength of placing your D-ring. So you've got strength on your strap and you don't have that stretchy on your strap. I drew my line and then put my interfacing on. I would highly recommend you put your interfacing, then draw your line. But I can see the line well enough that it will be okay. So once you do that, you're going to want to put some double-sided tape. You can put it on this, like I typically sometimes will stick 1/8 of an inch on each side. Then sometimes I will go and use 3/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch. I believe this is 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. This is a 1/2 of an inch or a 1/2 of an inch. Double-sided tape through the center, depending on the amount of space that I have is depending on what I use. If you have a machine that doesn't like it, of course you need to be very careful with the use of it. My domestic dislikes double-sided tape very much, so that's what got me in the habit of using the 1/8 of an inch on each end, on each long end, because I knew I could avoid it that way. Otherwise, if it hit it at all, I would have skip stitches all over the place. Okay, so once you do that, you're going to fold your long edges into the center line. Because you're only folding this once, you can fold right up to that line. Be careful with your interfacing. I thought I cut my interfacing a little more narrow than, or skinnier than what she calls for in her pattern piece, but apparently I didn't, because I can feel the interfacing bunching up a little bit on the edge. You may want to just cut it a little skinnier than what she calls for. It's not going to affect the integrity of the piece as long as you make sure you have some down the center. I'm going to use my roller to help with that curl or that little extra thickness on this piece here. Because what happens is when it runs into that piece, you get that bump on the side, and plus it'll pull it away from the center of your fold, where you're folded to the center at. It pulls away from it, and it's makes your piece a little uneven. So let's just fix, I'm going to fix this real quick. While I do that, I'm just kind of holding it in place. There you go. Now also you may want to, which I'm going to go back in and fix, is you may want to go in, see how I have this a little bit of an angle on the sides there. You may want to go in, and basically how I achieve that is I just go in about 1/8 of an inch and just go at an angle and trim it like that. I just go in 1/8 of an inch from the top and then angle it down. I mean, I only go maybe 1/2 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch down. And then I'm going to take the piece, make sure there's tape still there. I'm going to grab me a little bit of some double-sided tape. I think I just cut away all my tape. What this does is this will help that piece when you fold it under on your bag behind the strap connector, kind of, because this will fold down. It will help to hide that, so that way it doesn't peek through when you fold it down like this. It'll hide those corners like that. So I'm going to do that. And if you get a little bit of a bump, sometimes you may get a little bit of a bump when you do this, just take your scissors, go in at a little bit of an angle, just do a little snip. You're not going to see it. It's all it is just right there on the edge. You just get that little bit of a snip, and then you can just press it down with your hands, and that just gives it a nice flat surface there. So that's done with that. Now, once you get this completed, what you're going to do is you are going to go ahead, and she gives you the placement to make these center stitches. Basically, this gives you, what it'll do is it'll give you the 4 rows of stitching on the side. It'll mimic it rather than taking all 4 stitches, sewing all 4 stitchings on the side of the bag. You really only need the side to anchor it to the bag. So you do this stitching first, and that'll give you that nice look of the 4 rows of stitching. Obviously, you don't have to do it that way. If you just want to sew it directly on the bag with your 2 side stitches, that's perfectly up to you. But I do like that look, so I am going to go ahead and complete that. So I'm going to sew these on real quick at the top stitch length, and then once I get both of these lines completed, I will be right back. Okay, so we're back now, and we've got that done. So both pieces of both straps connectors are ready. Now, once you do all of that, she will give you some markings on your bag that you need to make. So I'm going to go ahead and make those marks real quick. I'm going to get this. She has you do the one marking on the front and the back, but that is for the purposes of where you place your tape for your piece, is why you put it on the back. So let me go ahead and get that mark first. I like to go ahead and match them up to make sure they look nice and even. Okay, now she tells you what the distance is, and she also gives you what the distance should be from the bottom up. I think my last ones were just a hair off, and mine are, these are hair off too, but it's fine because these are still going to work well with the bag. It's not going to be, they're not going to be too short or anything with the bag. So I've got my piece, my marked on the back. I'm going to put some double-sided tape on the back, except that spot. You leave the center piece, this part here. Do not put tape there. That is where your D-ring's going to go. And I'll show you once I get my tape on, you'll see what I'm referring to. Okay, so see, I've got the tape from up here, and then there's nothing there, and then there's a piece here. So this is where it's going to fold over like that, and then you'll have your D-ring there. Okay. So then what you're going to do is you do need to make those marks on the front of your straps as well that she gives you. That way, because that is going to mark your placement of the stitching as well when you stitch this on to your bag. I'm just double checking. I'm just going to make a small mark. I don't want to use this. I'm going to use my chalk pen. There we go. That'll work. All right, so I have them just barely on the front. You can barely see them, but I've got them on the front because that's going to be your stitching stopping points. So we're going to take it, we're going to go up the long edge, stop here, cross over and go back down at the 1/8 of an inch top stitch seam allowance. And then once we put our D-ring on here, we're going to take this. Actually, it's not going to get folded down. This is going to be up inside your bag. I apologize for that. That's my mistake. And then this is going to be up inside the gusset. You're not going to see the top part here. So you don't really need to do what I did as far as making that at an angle. But you're going to put your D-ring on here, and then you're going to put this piece, so this piece right directly onto the side gusset, and then start from here, go down across on that top line and back up. Okay, so I'm going to grab one of my gusset pieces, and it is going to be, actually I'm going to grab both gusset pieces, and you're going to get, it's called gusset piece B is the piece that you're going to want to get. You will have gusset piece A, which is going to be a very small piece. You will need, you're going to do those after this. So you want the 2 gusset piece B's. For those pieces, I'm just cleaning up my interfacing here that I've got my 101 here. Getting that cleaned up. And then you're going to find your centers on both the top and the bottom. Alrighty, so you're going to get one of your side connectors, peel off at the bottom first. Do not peel the top one off yet, just at the bottom. There we go. And then you're going to mark, center this on to your piece here, and then hold it down. Just what I do is I try to measure it based on well, my double-sided tape wants to go crazy on me here. I'm going to line that up, making sure it's all centered correctly. Even though the top is not removed yet. I'm just laying it down from the top so that way I can make sure it's straight. Because remember, this is still loose. Do not push this to put this down. Do not remove the backing on that top part. So this is placed down. You're going to go and then do your top stitching to adhere it to your side gusset. If there's any left over that hangs over, you can always just trim that right off. I have just a tad bit, so we're going to trim that off. And then there you go. Again, remember, that's not hooked, so I'm going to get my connectors. Now I'm using, instead of an actual D-ring, I did not have any actual D-ring in the antique brass, but I have these really cute double D-rings, I guess you could say, is what they're called. I'm not sure the actual what they're actually called, but these are nice. I'm going to use those, which still serves the same purpose. It just gives you, it's just got a little more of a accent to it. So I'm going to slip that on in that spot. I'm going to push it down to the stitch, and then I'm going to sew on the top from here down to that line and back up. Pivot again and sew across that line. Make sure I keep my seam allowance well. Here we go. And then turn again and then go up. And that will secure your D-ring in place. Now you can, if you want, you can put some rivets in. I may go in and put some rivets in. I would put, if I did, I would put one. Let's see if I can find a good way to point. Here we go. I would put a rivet right here, right above that line, and then I would put one right below the line. That's where I would place it. I would go, most likely go up about 3/8 of an inch above and 3/8 below, and you place that rivet right in between those two stitch lines. Make sure you do not put it where you cut into your stitches, because obviously that will release your stitches and then you'll have some unraveling. But I think that would look really nice to throw a couple rivets in. I have seen a tester bag, which is really kind of neat, where she went down and placed some rivets down as an accent down the side of the bag. That is very neat. Of course, you can always add what you want, like how I did the center panel. You can always do something a little different each time, or, you know, whatever you want to do for your bag. I'm going to go ahead and then sew on the other strap connector onto the other gusset. And then once we get done with that, then we will move on to completing the gusset. I will go ahead and pause for this part here, and then once we get all that done, then I will come back and complete the gusset pieces. Thank you. Okay, now we've got our side panels done, our side gussets. Actually, this is, let me get that exact piece. Gusset piece B is what the name of this is. And I did put the rivets on. Again, I just went 3/8 above and 3/8 below. It makes it very close to the stitching, if you see that. Just be very careful. I really wouldn't go too much higher. If you're uncomfortable with the 3/8, you can go a half. But obviously I would not go any higher, simply because you're going to get into your stitching, or your when you're stitching your pieces together. So there are my, again, these are gusset piece B's, and remember, these are double D rings, and that's not typically what you use. She just has you use a D ring, but that's all I had in this hardware. I just thought I'd mention that again. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to grab a gusset piece A. You will have cut out 4 of these pieces. You're only going to need 2 for the exterior gussets. The other 2, you set those aside. They will be for your lining contrast. When you put your lining together, this will be at the top part of your lining. Just remember, she does give you the drop-in line here. This is for your lining to mark, so I went ahead and that's where I placed my, if you can see, that's where I placed my Decaville light. I drew my line, and then I placed my Decaville in the seam allowance amount on the sides, and then right below the line that she gives you for that. Again, remember, I've got extra interfacing simply because of how soft this vinyl is. I just didn't want, I wanted my bag not to be too saggy, I guess you could say. All right, let me go ahead and trim a smidge and a little bit of interfacing that I have, the 101 that's sticking out on the sides there. I apologize, I did not have these cleaned up before I started. I always tell myself when I do this to clean it up before you start recording, and I still forget. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to take the wider part, the bottom of it, which is of course the part that has this interfacing to the lowest point of this piece. You're going to center it right sides together, center it at the top of your piece. Now you will have a little bit of peak sticking out. What you can do, you can find the center of this piece. This may make it a little easier for you. So I'm going to go ahead and find my center, go ahead and match it, get my clips out. Now, you may or may not notice, this is actually being recorded a little bit later from my initial recording. I have since acquired the Jackson Lowe little tiny metal baby clips. I call them baby clips because they're so tiny. I've used them on a project that I've been working on, another project, and I'm getting used to them. They are, if you are interested in them, they are a little stiff at first. Just gonna let you know. They do, but they are quite handy little clips. I'm not gonna lie, I'm getting better. Like I say, I'm getting used to them. They're just, when you first use them, oops, I almost started that the wrong way. When you first start them, they are stiff when you first start using them. And they're tiny, so you don't want, and they're metal, so don't step on these. Not like your plastic clippies. You step on a plastic clippy, you just break them. These, I think, may hurt you a little bit, but we got this cute little, actually the ring's on the outside, but I just thought I'll show you this real quick. I know a lot of people are using these as well, but it comes with this cute little, whoops, it's a metal, not metal, it's a magnet base at the bottom. It's got their logo on it, and this flattens. This is like this is a silicone, and it flattens, and that's really, I mean, it's real handy. I'm not gonna lie, it's really cute. This was actually in my swag bag when I did Swag Dash, so I was very grateful to Jackson Lowe for sponsoring that and providing that to us. I will go and buy some more, not just right now, but I will buy some more at a later date to add to my stash of my little cute little metal clips. But anyway, all right, so we're going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives you. Just remember, when you get to these things, they do bend easily. So if you hit them with your presser foot and you've got a heavy presser foot like I do, it will bend them, the tips of them, because they're not very thick pieces of metal. The clips aren't like real thick, but they're made not to snap and break like the plastics do. All right, my box has moved. Let me get my stitch length back up a little bit. Okay, so then once you stitch this on, you're going to fold this up. And then you're going to fold your seam allowance towards the top of the bag like this. And then you're going to top stitch that piece right there. Well, if I can get it, well, I'm just going to hold them down. So I'm going to top stitch on the upper gusset or gusset piece A with my seam allowance again pointing up towards the top of the bag. All right. I'm going to clip a little bit of this corner here. I'm just going to clip into the corner. That's just to alleviate some of the bulk like that. So I've got just a little bit of a triangle on there, or a long, I guess, I don't know, but there is the side gusset. So this is gusset piece A, gusset piece B, stitched and ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and work on the second piece, the other side, and we'll, once I get this finished, then we will attach the base. I will put a link to Jackson Lowe. I mean, they're in no way sponsor or anything. In case you are interested in these little clippies, I'll be honest with you, I have seen them on Amazon. But as anything that you get on Amazon, you know, buyer beware. You don't never know. You don't never know. That's some good English, isn't it? You never know what you're going to get from Amazon until actually you buy it. Some things, of course, you know, it's fine, but these, I can tell you, these came from Jackson Lowe, and I can tell you exactly what these are. I mean, they're tight when you first start using them, but they're meant to be tight, and they've got a nice little grip to them. But again, these tips are softer, they're thin, so if you've got a heavy presser foot like I do on this machine, it will, actually I did bend one. It will just absolutely just flex it right down in the middle, because I did it. I've already done that. I've only had these things for a week. So anyway, so I'm just going to clip that away. I'm just doing this. Now this is not in the pattern. You can choose to do this if you want. I'm just kind of alleviating some of the bulk, because when you sew it to the sides of your bag, you've got a little less bulk there at the top. Okay, so I got both of these completed. Now we're going to grab our base, and she has it listed as gusset piece C, but which is the base of the bag. And what I did to the base of my bag is I did add purse feet to the base, and I also did a little stitch around the edge of this base of the bag. She doesn't have directions on the purse feet, so I will tell you where I put my purse feet on this bag. I went, let me make sure before I tell you, I'm pretty sure I remember, but I'm going to make sure. I went 1.5 inches in from the short edge, okay? Excuse me, 1.5 inches in from the short. And then I went 1.25 inches from the long edge. 1.25 inches from the long edge, 1.5 inches from the short edge. Of course, this is completely centered, and I just did it by marking my centers on each edge and then just placing it there. So I've got these little purse feet, little dome purse feet. I've only had a couple of these left. And then, of course, you want to cover your pieces with tape or something. That way you don't worry about it rubbing your lining. Now I will place a piece of foam over this before I put my lining in, but after my bag's constructed. I started doing that. Actually, I seen Chris from Simply Classic do that, And I like the idea because you've got that purse feet and you're reaching in your bag. It gives that little bit of a cush between your bag lining and your purse feet. So I thought that. So I will be putting a piece of foam, and honestly, I just reach in, try to do a quick measure of approximately what I need, and then I cut it down as I push it in and clean it up. So that's kind of how I do that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead then and attach our gusset piece C, your base. Grab one of your side panels, right sides together, and then I'm going to clip these. All right, so these are clipped together, right sides together, and then we're going to stitch these together at the seam allowance that she gives you. And then you're going to top stitch on the base of the bag, or you're going to top stitch this part of the bag here. So I'm going to fold my seam allowance towards this portion of the bag, and then I'm going to top stitch. Let's see, let me turn it this way. I know I can do it the 1/8 of an inch on the other way, but I like to use the foot as my guide. Or the side of my foot, I should say, as my guide. Okay, and we're going to do the exact same on the other side. Right sides together, we're going to stitch them together, and then we will top stitch once it's stitched. So I'll be right back. We'll fast forward through this part, and once I get this all together and top stitched, then we will be assembling the exterior of the bag. It's always the best part. I can't wait to see what this looks like completed all together with that center panel quilted versus having the sides. I mean, I love the sides, but I like that there's, did something a little different with a solid color bag. There we go. All right, now we are ready. So double check. First, what we're going to do before we attach it to the front and back panel, I'm going to double check and make sure my centers of this base is still accurate, because you could always lose something in your seam allowances. So I'm going to double check it and make sure with my my things are clacking against each other, and there we go. All right, I'm going to hold a clip there so I can put this. So basically, again, I am just matching up the top and going down to make sure my center is still accurate. Just be careful. I probably should have done it the opposite way, because my hardware and my feet are hitting against each other, but we are going to go with what we got going here. So I'm just going to do it this way. Just kind of follow it down with my hands, making sure it is just a smidgen a bit off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just extend my little clip in my piece here. So the point, and that one does work. Okay, great. Everything looks good. This one was just a hair off, and all I did was kind of widen it out just a tad bit, just so I know the center is I'm talking really wasn't hair off, really wasn't even worth what I did, but anyway, I did it. Okay, so my center's marked at the base of my bag. I'm going to go ahead and mark the centers at the top before this gets stitched together, so that way when you're lining up your bag, you've got center points to match when you do your fold downs and put your lining in your bag. So everything can match up well. And it's always, I always like doing that now before I start construction. All right, so I'm going to grab one of my panels. So I'm grabbing my front panel. I'm going to clean up those little wings. Apparently I didn't clean those up when I stitched them on. So let me get that little bit cleaned up there. There we go. There we go. All right, so now it's nice and equal. The little wings popping out. And let me make sure, let me do a little bit of bulk clearing as well, just so it helps in my seam allowance. It gets a little thick at these port parts here. So I'm just going to, I'm actually going to snip that down to where my fold over line is. This one I think I've already cleaned up a little bit, so. Because you get that bulk in it, sometimes it doesn't want to lay well. All right, let's get it. So what we're gonna do is I'm going to match the center of the bottom of my bag. Here, let me turn the camera just a smidgen so you can see what I'm working on here. There we go. So I got my tablet here in the way where I've got my directions, so let me shift that a little bit so I can move my piece up. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the center of the bottom of our bag to the center of the panel. I've got my front panel, so I'm working with my front panel first. So we're going to match those centers up together. Just grab my clips. I'm going to put a clip on each side of that center like that. That'll hold it in place. Then I'm going to take my one of my sides, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to match it up to the top of my bag to my other side. So here's my bag here, like that. Let's kind of hold it a little bit so you can see. So here's the bag. I'm going to take this and I'm going to match it up to the top here. And then I'm going to put a couple of clips in. I got to lay it down to do that so I can see it and make sure it doesn't move. So I'm going to put a couple clips in here to hold it in place. I'm going to go ahead and put a third one in. That way it's just secure. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing to the other side. I'm going to take this piece, match it down. And I'm going to throw some clips in here and hold it in place. This will help you distribute the, when you get down to these curves here, the curves of the bag right here. Whoop, you can't see it because my camera's not pointing far enough down. But when you get to this part of the bag, this will help you when you work towards that, distribute that a little more evenly when you get down to that point. If you just go and start working yourself from the bottom and head up, you can, your bag could end up being uneven at the top if you do that. I'm not saying that you will, I'm just saying it could. All right. Then I'm going to, after I do that, then I'm going to go to the bottom of the bag. Let me get some of these clips out so I have them handy. All right. Now also with these little guys, you don't want to use them on very thick materials because since they are small, so you do want to, you still want to probably keep your plastic clippies because they open a little wider. Just thought I'd throw that out as well. This is great for a project like this where you're just putting your gusset on to your bags. You don't have a lot of bulk to do that. All right. Again, I was just cutting away some bulk as a matter of fact, as I was talking about it. Okay, so I've got my top two sides clipped and my center started. Now I'm going to go back to the bottom of my bag and I'm going to start clipping and I'm going to work my way out. This is how I do my gussets. Now, if you do a gusset differently, that's completely fine, obviously. What works best for you. Everybody does it a little differently. The first gusset I did, like something like this, the bag designer had you sew the bottom to a certain point, and then the sides to a certain point, and then you do the curve of the gusset. I did it that way. That was like one of my first gussets. It was okay. I mean, I did it that way because that's the way she wrote it, and I didn't know any better on how to do a gusset. So it worked for me, but the more bags I've made, I've kind of came up, this is my method that I came up with. So if you see here how I did, I worked the bottom up to the curve, kind of like the way the gusset was taught to me in the beginning, but except I'm just using the clips. So I just kind of clip from the bottom, I go out to the curve, and I stop, and then I work from the sides and go down. I feel like that gives me the best fit of a gusset. Let's see if we needed to, try not to clip into the gusset if I don't have to. I like this gusset to be nice and snug, and I think we might not have to. I think we have a really great gusset here. All right. Let me see, I should have enough clips, yeah. The only thing without having a magnetic bottom with these metal clips, I gotta work to get them out. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, that's nice. I did not have to make any snips in my gusset on that side. So I've got it nice and equal there. So let's pull this up here and let's go ahead, keep clipping around, and let's see what we got. That's always nice if you don't have to clip into your gusset. Always. Sometimes I get aggressive with my clips and I have to watch it and make sure I keep that minimal gusset snip, like 1/8 of an inch typically. There we go. Oh yeah, look at that. That's nice. Isn't that nice? Look at that. I got 3 clips left. It's like you got to figure out another place to put these 3 clips, but I'm going to do it. All right. So we're all clipped up. I'm ready to go. You sew with your gusset up like this. That way you can fold your gusset down and work around your bag. Let me decrease my stitch length a little bit. I do like to go 4 or under when I sew through the bag, when I put the bag together. That of course gives me closer stitches, and it allows what do I want to say? It gives a better stitching, holding of the bag. So I'm just go ahead and stitch this down. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sew this on. I think we're good as far as me not having to explain. Just go slow, especially when you get around your curve of your gusset. That's always something that you really want to watch out for. So we're going to go ahead and get this gusset on, and then I will explain to you my next step. Alrighty, there we go. So there is my first gusset. I'm going to look, I do see a little bit of a pucker right here, but my seam slipped a little. My seam, not slipped, but my seam allowance slipped a little bit. I went less than the recommended, or the seam allowance in the pattern. So I am going to go in and stitch, redo that particular area. And then that will hide my tiny little pucker that's on there, because the pucker is like right where the seam should be, or the stitching should be, I should say. There we go. And I just kind of went back around it, is what I did. And I'll show you here what I did. That way you can see in case something like that happens to you. So I just went back around it like that, and I got the right seam allowance in, and then I started at the correct seam allowance, sewed it in to the correct, and then when I came out of the curve, I stopped. When I got into where the seam allowance is, I stopped and I did back stitch both places, because you don't want, of course, that stitching to come loose. So let me take a look at it now. It looks good. I know I need a little steam on the bag because of my Decoville is starting to wrinkle a little bit, but other than that, everything looks good on the inside of my bag. Look at that bag. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, so we're going to grab the other panel, in which my case, it is the back panel. Oh, and I don't know if I showed you, I put my name in the back of the bag. I don't think I showed you that. And off to, of course, one of the side panels, since I did not do it in the front. And I did not want to take away from this quilting, so I did it on the side. Had I have quilted the sides, I probably would have put it in the center, in the back, at the bottom, is where I would have put it. So, anyway, so that's what I did with that. So we're going to go ahead and get this on. We're going to do the exact same thing with this piece, this side, as we did with the other side. And I will go ahead and pause this rather than the fast forward motion. I think that would be the best thing at this point to do, is just go ahead and give it a quick pause. And then once I get this actually completely sewn on, then I will be back and then we'll turn the bag together. Okay, so I'll go ahead and pause it. All right, we're back. So I have both sides sewn on to my gusset. Now there's one thing I did want to mention that I didn't show you. So see how I've got double stitching here, but then my second row starts below my fold down line. On most bags, you may want to do that second row of stitching like that. What that does is that helps with the pressure of the stitches on the outside of the bag. It helps to keep the stitches from showing through your bag. Also, I like it personally because this, especially since this is a large bag, it's going to have a lot of stuff put in it. I mean, that's just a given, especially when you've got a big bag. So it also, I feel, gives you that extra strength to the bag. Okay, so now once you get this sewn on, you're going to, here's the scissors I want, trim down your seam allowance in about half. You want to start below your fold down line. So I usually just come in and at an angle just below that, and then veer off like that, and then cut it down. See how close? But see, you're basically still cutting it in half, but you're getting close to your second row of stitching. But just remember, that is your second row of stitching. And you're just going to trim that down. That eliminates the bulk in the seams of your bag. And it also helps with the way the bag lays a little bit better. So we'll go ahead and get this trimmed down on both sides. Just kind of go slow. Sometimes I'll get going and I'm not really paying a lot of attention. And I get real close. Even though it's the second layer, I still get real close. And you really don't want to do, you don't want to cut into those. I mean, you don't want to really cut into any of your stitches if you can help it, even though, again, this is like a support, I guess you could call it a support stitch. Like that. So I'm going to veer back off it again. Again, it's just below my fold down line. All right, let's get the other, whoops, I laid it down. There we go, this is what I want. So I'm just going to go in and then give this a good trim down. And then we're going to turn it right side out, and we're going to get to see what it looks like all put together. I mean, I know we've seen what the panel looked like when the panels were put together, but I think sometimes, I feel at least, putting it all together, I think sometimes, to me, honestly, it still looks different, even if you're just looking at a panel. Ooh, this is giving me my hand a workout. let's see, where's my line? There we go. Okay. And this is a soft, and it's a nice wide opening and a very soft vinyl. This'll be an easy bag to turn. There's also, if you don't want to do a drop-in lining, I know there are people. First, I'm going to measure my base of my bag. This is how I do it. If you want to do the foam like me, I will go in and measure where my stitch line is to my stitch line. Now, since I've got 2 rows, I want to go to your innermost stitch line. This gives me an idea of the piece that I want to cut. Let's see, I need a piece of paper. Here we go. This is honestly the best way I know how to do it. And this is going to be cut just a tad bit larger than it needs to be, but my ruler's a little short and my other ruler's on the table, so I'm just going to do a guesstimate here. Just again, this is going to be cut bigger than it should be. Okay, and that's how I do it, honestly. And then again, I'm going to cut a piece of foam of the size that I just measured out, and it will be bigger than its need be, but again, it will be I'll be able to trim around the edges to get it to lay in there nicely. And how I put it in is I will put some, I have this 1-inch double-sided tape that I got off of Amazon, and I will use this to put it to the bottom of the bag. That'll help it hold still and not shift around. Okay, let's go for the big reveal. I'm just gonna go. But I know it has to do with the decal. A lot of it has to do with the decal. All right, I'm just checking my gusset around the edges where the curves are, making sure it looks good. It does. I like the way it looks. Look at that. Ooh, look at that bag. I mean, tell you what, that is a perfect, I mean, think about it. I mean, I'm just gonna, let's just talk about this for a quick second. In the fall, I'm just gonna say this. People like to carry larger bags. Why? Because you're taking the families out to fall stuff. I mean, I was just at a fall festival this weekend. You know, they had crafters at a nice fall festival. You've got your big bags that you can carry your stuff in. I mean, I'm just saying, check it out. You'd be the talk. Let's say talk of the town, carrying around a bag that looks like this. I'm just saying. I mean, the color, that light helps me out, but I'm gonna tell you what, I don't think it helps my videos out much. Let's do, oh, there we go, at that angle, look at that. Ooh, look at that. Okay, enough of that. So, our exterior is done. There's the sides. See how you got that nice there? There's the other side. And the strap that we have can be used as a shoulder. If you cinch it up, you can use it as a shoulder or extend it out. It could be a crossbody. Okay, so we're going to set this aside for now. We are going to work on let's do the zipper placket first before we work on the lining pieces. And the reason I'm doing the zipper placket is because once we get the lining done, then we will need the zipper placket ready. So I'm going to go ahead and have that ready. I've got some pattern pieces in my way, so let me get these out of my way real quick as I move through this little basket of goodness here. I am using, it's kind of a yellowish zipper. That is the closest zipper I could find that could go with this. I would love to have had a zipper that matched this exactly, honestly, but this is what I'm using for my zipper. It's the best I can find. Interior, I'm just going to use a white zipper. because of my lining. It will go with my lining just fine. I am using, where is my zipper pull? I'm using this really cute teardrop-esque type of zipper pull for my main zipper. It's got like a 3D dimension to it. I got this from Barbie at Jeannie's Designs. Go check her out. She sells, she's got her little good stash of hardware. That would be a great little, those are really kind of neat for like an exterior of the bag. I think it's a very pretty zipper pull. It's nice, it's simple, but it's very pretty. Kind of. It's kind of like, I don't know. All right. Quite honestly, zipper placket is made like most. However, how she has it in her pattern, I am going to show you how Ivana does it in her patterns. She does it just the slightest bit different than most. You're going to mark your pieces. She gives you measurements to mark the short ends of your zipper plackets. And you're going to do that on both short ends on all 4 pieces. She writes her patterns where you use 2 exterior pieces for your zipper placket. I can do that because the machine that I have can handle this much vinyl at one time. However, if you have a domestic or a semi-domestic and you're worried about the thickness, I would suggest you do 1 exterior, 1 lining. Most all patterns are written 1 exterior, 1 lining. It's just Ivana does this is the way she writes hers, which is totally fine. I just thought I'd throw that out there, especially if you have a domestic and you start top stitching and you've got those corners, it becomes a lot of layers that you have to sew through. Okay, so you're going to put your piece together like this. Let me go ahead, let me get my pattern brought back up and make sure of the your need. Okay, so one of them you're going to sew as she gives you the seam allowance to sew it at, not at where that mark is, but you're going to sew it at the seam allowance that she gives for on one end, and you're going to do this to both pieces, both zipper placket pieces. So we're going to stitch these together. It's kind of neat how she does it. Again, it's a little different, but it's kind of neat. And I like to sew it that way when she has it in her pattern that way. Okay. So we got our short end. You got it sewed together like that at the seam allowance that she gives. Let me go ahead and stitch this other piece. I have not done my zipper end yet, doing the 90-degree thing. She actually has that in her pattern first before you stitch these together. But since I had already kind of started talking about it, I thought we'd follow through with this. And we'll do our zipper 90-degree at, before we install it. Okay, so we got both of the ends are stitched together like this. And then what you're going to do is you are going to trim this end. You're going to trim the seam allowance in half like that, and then you're going to go in not at this but close to where that stitching is, and just go in at an angle like that. Okay, so again, we're going to go close to but not in it, and then just go at a little angle and just kind of give yourself a little bit of a little V looking like that. So trim it in half, go at an angle, and boom. Okay, so these are ready now. Well, one more step and then we'll do our zipper real quick. Then what you're going to do at the other end where you did your markings that she gives you, you're going to put some double-sided tape at the very end of your short end like that. I'm using 1/8 of an inch. That way I don't have that in my way when I stitch this piece down. I don't have it in the way. Okay, so you've got that. So we're going to do that to both sides. I'm not going to do any folding or anything yet with that. I am just going to go ahead and at least get that on there and get that ready. Because I don't fold them right away. I will fold one side right away, but the other side I don't fold the end until I'm ready to stitch, until it's stitched together, so that way they are equal, just in case there is unevenness, like in my seam allowance that I messed up on. I cut one just a hair longer than the other. Sometimes the vinyl will stretch a little bit, and then that will, you know, give you a little extra on the end. So I just usually wait until the very end. Okay, so let me get my zipper. I didn't cut my zipper yet. This zipper, there's not a whole lot left of this piece of zipper. And she gives you, of course, tells you what to cut your zipper at. And I'm going to tell you right now, I always cut my zipper longer than a pattern designer gives. I like to have my zipper to be a little longer than most bags are written. I just like that extra opening, if you can say that, when you unzip a bag. I always feel sometimes pattern designers, I mean, some do still write it that way where it's a little longer, but some don't. So I just make it a habit of cutting it an extra inch and a half past what they give you. Again, because I just don't like that real tight, a real tight opening. When I reach into my bag, especially when it's a big bag and I reach into my bag, I want to be able to see in it. I want to be able to dig through it. That's the way it is. All right. Mark your lines. I go 1 inch down. I don't know if that's how, I think that's how she writes it in her patterns, but I go 1 inch down. You do the fold down, fold over. I have seen neat tricks on how some people do this stuff. If you've got a better way of doing it, by all means do it. I've seen people do it really neat ways, and especially on Instagram. But I tell you what, I just not sat down and practiced it, and so I'm going to keep doing it the way I originally learned, and till one day maybe I will sit down and practice. I just kind of match when I do this. I've got bent stick pins. They're bent because I use them for this purpose, solely for this purpose. They're really, really thin. I cannot tell you what the thickness of these stick pins are. All I can tell you is these are the thinnest stick pins, and I absolutely love them. I use these when I was doing a lot of piecing with my quilts. I mean, you literally can sew over them and not hit them. I mean, very, very rarely have I hit them sewing over them. Now, I wouldn't suggest you do it. I'm just saying I very rarely have hit them. Okay, I'm just checking to make sure my little peaks match up. I'm going to fix this one just a little more because it needs to probably go down, just so when you zip it up, you don't have an uneven end. There we go. So that looks good there. So I've got them pinned like that. So what I'm going to do with my stick pins in tow, I'm going to place my presser foot right over there on the end like that. I'm actually going to make a couple stitches, and then I'm going to pull my stick pin out. Again, these stick pins are in sad shape, but they work. It works for me when I do this, and it holds my piece. And I tell you what, I get very little slippage where the zipper pulls away from the zipper tape pulls away from the teeth. All right, I'm going to do it to this side. You just kind of, it's like an 1/8 of an inch, basically. Just don't get too close to the edge like I just did. Let's see, let's do it this way. There we go. So you just want to sew it at 1/8 of an inch. I do back stitch on this. Actually, I kind of go over it. I back stitch the whole little section. All right, so there is my zipper at the 90 degree, or the 90-ish degree, because it's kind of like that. All right, I do not put the zipper pull on yet. I will do that in the end. I see a thread. Let's get that real quick. But I will clean up the edge of my zipper right here. So I will trim that, straighten it out. Like that. And then straighten this one out. Like that. So it looks like it's just shoulders without arms. I mean, honestly, I know that sounds really odd, but that's kind of what it reminds me of when I trim it like that. Don't ask me why that pops in my head. So that's all cleaned up. Edges are singed. I've not singed. Yeah, I have singed the end of that one. All right, so zip again. I've not got my zipper pull on yet. I will do that last. And do that. All right, so I'm going to take one of the pieces that we already sewed together like this. We're going to open it up. We're going to separate our seam allowance. Even though it's a small one, we're going to still separate it like that. Just press it open as best as you can. And then you're going to lay your piece open right side up like that. All right. With your seam allowance open. And then I'm going to take off the double-sided tape off of the ends here. I'm folding it to the line like that. Okay. I'm going to do it to the other side of this because this is all going to be stitched together. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one and get these folded up. It's the other one I will not undo until I get to the till I put it on and then I can see it better. All right. Whoops. Get that before it hits the ground. All right. I'm going to get some double-sided tape. Now you can do this the way you want to do it. If you don't like to use a lot of double-sided tape, you can clip it. I'm a taper. I'm just going to throw that out there. I do like to tape. So we're going to get this taped on and I'm going to tape it all the way to the end. Like that. I'm going to do it to both sides because this is going to get folded over your zipper. You're going to make a zipper sandwich with this 2 pieces of vinyl stitched together. And I'm going to go ahead and just do it like this. Boom. So there's my tape on both sides. All right, I'm going to unpeel the one side first. I use 1/8 of an inch on my zipper when I do my zippers because that way it doesn't interfere with my stitching. So you're going to take this and you're going to have your zipper teeth. Let's see if I can do this close up. But you're going to, let's see, let's try it this way. So you're going to take your zipper teeth, place it up against, but not like into where the seam is, but you're going to go up to it and then start sticking down your tape. See how that, but see, be careful. Like I said, you're going to go up to it, but don't stick it into it because you're going to fold this over and you want to make sure you have that extra little space to when you fold it over, it's coming off center, if that makes sense. All right, so you're going to take your piece of zipper tape, go all the way down. This is why I like to use double-sided tape. You can just go down, just be really careful and push it down like that. And then I'm going to release the other side, or take the tape backing off the other side, fold it over. I'm just going to take it and work it over the teeth like that, making sure I'm not, there we go. And then you've got your zipper is completely sandwiched, encased inside of your piece. And this is where you want to make sure, see how that one is just a hair longer than the other side? You want to take one, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to fold it up just a little more. But I'm going to tell you what, this backing is felty, and it wants to not unstick, but we got it. So I'm just going to take it and then just finagle this up a little bit more, just this tiniest bit, so that way you've got it. Okay, we're going to stitch this on at the stitch length that she gives it. I'm actually going to go a little more than what she gives. Only reason I do that is because I have been liking a larger stitch length on my zipper, plackets. So I'm going to go just slightly larger than what she gives. Just be consistent. I mean, that's honestly the best advice I could give you if you do like what I'm doing. Just be consistent. When you get to the end, be careful. Do not go off the vinyl, or else that will show up in your zipper tape. You don't want to see that on your final product. Just watch where you're going, and then just do your back stitch like that. I am just right, I mean, I'm like a 1/16 of an inch away from the edge. So I'm going to call that good. We're going to snip it off, and I'll show you here what we got. Get my threads clipped. Oh, don't clip the vinyl though. That's not good. There we go. Sorry. That almost didn't want to cut right. I almost cut my vinyl. There we go. So we're stitched on there. Now, what I'm going to do, this is going to help with this piece here where the teeth are, because of course you don't want to cut your zipper. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go right below the teeth, okay? And I'm going to cut into my vinyl just a little bit like that. And then I'm going to go right up above the teeth and cut. And I'm going to leave about a 1/16 of an inch of my, where it's at there. That will alleviate bulk around the teeth, so when you open it up and fold it, you don't have all that extra bulk. So I'm going to go in and do that. I don't know if she writes this in this pattern. She doesn't. This is just what I've been doing lately. You can also, another little tip, I know, Tony's tips for the night or the day, however, whenever you're watching. But anyway, you can also, if you so choose, trim away one of these like this. I'll go ahead and do this and show you. But pull the tape away and trim like this. Don't cut your zipper tape, but you can go in and trim away the lining like this. That will also help with bulk. And then just be careful when you get to the end, you kind of stop, because you don't want to cut it off completely at the end, because you'll see that. You don't want that. I'm sorry, it kind of had off camera. So see how I trimmed that piece away from the zipper, but the zipper tape is still there, but I stopped here. I did not trim that little piece off here because it, you need that finished edge. when you turn it right side. That'll just alleviate bulk. If you want to use the two pieces, like the two exterior pieces, but you're worried about all that bulk, that's just some tips to help you out. All right, so we're just going to turn it right side out, flip it out. Just be careful when you're pulling out your zipper that you're not pulling the zipper completely through, especially since you did some trimming. You want to be very careful with that. I am just going to use my flathead screwdriver a little bit to help with those corners, and then I'm going to clip the raw edges. I'm just going to line them up and clip them like that, and then that way when I do top stitching, then I will be able to have that set for me. Whoops. Just make sure your ends still line up okay once you get to that end, like that. There we go. All right. See, I've got that folded, and then when you top stitch, you could, if you want at this point, roll it out a little bit. I got this nice fancy dancy roller. Thanks Wonderground Fabrics for sponsoring at the Swag Dash. This is nice. I mean, I kind of feel bad because it overshines the one I've been using, my little clover plastic one, which I'm gonna tell you, I did get my money's worth out of that. I've had that thing for years. All right, so I'm gonna get my stitch length, and then I always start on the raw edge because I back stitch, and I can do that and hide my back stitching. So we just start on the raw edge and then top stitch, which of course is the good old 1/8 of an inch. Just be careful when you get to your zipper teeth. If you need a little jumper like this, make sure the dog, when it lands on the floor, the dog don't get a hold of it and thinks it's something to play with. Just saying. Just watch your teeth when you do this part. I have accidentally hit the teeth and broken needle doing this if I'm not careful. And I'm just going to put it behind as well because it's still on the high end. There we go. All right, and then just go ahead and stitch it on. All right. Got a little bit of bulk coming up here. Let's get 2 more stitches. Fold this again a little bit. There we go. And then, oops, let's fix that. Put that back a stitch. So there is one side of our zipper placket. There you go. It's like, that's really nice. Now, you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the zipper. Now, what I need to mention is when you do this other side, what you got to worry about is when you fold this piece over, you're going to have this this side in the way. So you're going to have to pull your zipper away from the side of the placket. When you do that, your zipper's going to have to open up. I would not do that until you start, you know, you get it started. Honestly, she has you do it prior to, but I would wait until you at least get it started before you pull your zipper away. Now, there's a couple things that I could mention as far as when you do that. You can actually either completely pull this apart and just have 2 separate pieces and be done with it, or you can, what I call is a stay stitch. It's not really official term or anything. I mean, stay stitch is official in another aspect of sewing. But what I do is sometimes what I do is I'll throw in an extra 1/2 inch onto my zipper. I will stitch down, just go across the teeth a couple, 3 times, maybe 4. And then first, let's say this first. First, we put the zipper pull on, okay? Or you don't even have to, honestly. But basically, what you're trying to do is keep the zipper piece, this piece, together with this piece. Because when you separate it, a lot of people don't like the idea of their zipper becoming completely apart. That just keeps your zipper apart. So you would put your zipper pull on, stitch back and forth on your teeth so your zipper pull doesn't come off. Then when you're ready and your piece is done, you would just snip off the tip of your zipper above where you stitched. And then that's when you do your piece. Then you either you could actually leave it on, or you could snip it off. And then you can either put a zipper end on, or of course, some people will just do the little rectangle piece and cover your end of your zipper up. But that's what I would do. So I'm going to put the tape on here. I'm going to set this down. Make sure you tape the right side too. I've done that before. I've taped the wrong side and I've had to pull the tape off, and then it ends up being completely wasted. I'll go ahead, and what I'll do is I'll put it down, making sure I know what side to put the tape on, and then I will tape the side. And then that way I know what's going on, and then I'll start with, dismantling the zipper a little bit and going from there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get the other side of this placket done. And then, another thing too, because I did not do my folded in yet, I'll show you real fast what I do. I do not go to the end. I go just above where it's going to get folded into, but I don't fold this into it until I size it up, because you want to make sure it works out to the end. So I'll go ahead and check it out like that. I'll kind of size it up a little bit, and then let me remove this tape first, and then I'll show you what I'm doing here. So I've got the backing off, but I'm going to measure this up like that. Let's flip it. I'm just measuring up to where the stitch line is. I'm going in like that, and then I'm going to fold it down to match. It should go on the line, but sometimes, like I say, sometimes it just needs to go just a little bit past or a little bit before. So whoops, that's in the way. So let's measure this out again. I'm going to hold this up against here, making sure we're good. I need to go in a little more. Yeah, I need to go up a little more. See, that's why, and I folded it right to that line. I need to go over that line just a little bit. There we go. So I'm going to set it back down, measure it up. That looks good. So that one's matches. I've got this one in matched. I don't need to do the other side until I lay down my piece on it, and then I'll take it, match it up when I get done. That's just how I match them up, to make sure they show equal, because I worry that they're going to be all off center or not equal, and then it'll just look sloppy. All right, so when we come back, I will have my zipper placket completed, and then we will start with our slip pocket, our interior lining, and that should relatively come easy. It's not, it's a slightly different. The zipper pocket and the slip pocket is slightly different than your standard ones, so we will go over that in this tutorial as well. So we'll get this done, and then I'll be back when we get to the lining. We'll be back. Bye. I'm not bye, but hang in there. Okay. All right, we're back. We have our zipper placket completed. There it is. I went ahead and put my zipper pull on to test to make sure that it rests evenly at the top. So actually it looks very nice. So once your zipper placket is completed, you're going to take it and you're going to mark your centers on both sides of your plackets. So I'm just going to fold it like this. And if for some strange reason your placket isn't even on one edge, on the edge, make sure it's just at least even on one side of it, and then you can fold and make that mark. Let me see if I can explain it a little better. So if when you fold this, one side like this side here is, well, actually it measures out correctly. I was thinking it was a tad bit longer, but like if you fold it like this and you see one side is just a tad bit longer than the other, go ahead and keep it at this fold. Don't try to adjust this, you know, the one side to equal it out. As long as you're folding it in half and marking it like that, you will be good. And I apologize if you hear the dog in the background. The dog at nighttime, she for some reason lately has been wanting to bark a lot. Okay, so my centers are marked, and at this time you can separate your panel if you want to, but I definitely would not mark the centers until you've got, I would definitely not separate your placket until your centers are marked. That's just make sure it's equal, just in case, like what I was just mentioning. All right, we're going to set this aside. All right, so now we're going to move to the lining of the bag. This should go rather quickly. It's not, it's a little different than what we're used to on linings. So this should be relative, but it's not a complicated pockets in the lining. It does have your standard slip pocket and your zipper pocket. It's just installed slightly differently. So what you're going to do when you get this, you're going to take your lining pieces. So you will have 2 lining pieces. She does give you the measurements in there. She does provide you with pattern pieces for lining and zippers, but they're, you know, squares, slightly off square, I guess you could say. So you can always use your ruler for that if you don't want pattern pieces for that measurement. Okay, so you're going to put them right sides together, and it's going to be the longer edges is what you're going to sew on. So right sides together, and then on the longer edges of this piece, you're only going to sew the top and the bottom. Do not sew the 2 sides. You're going to turn it, you're going to make it like the sleeve, and then turn it through that sleeve. So top and bottom only at the seam allowance that she gives you. I'm going to clip this because since this is a smooth lining, I'm just going to get my standard clips. These are quicker for me to handle with my hands. But anyways, I'm going to put some couple clips in here and just kind of straighten them up. If it's off a little bit or a smidgen, it'll be fine. The raw edges that we're not sewing on will be hidden. These side edges will be hidden. So you, if it's off just a smidgen, as long as you've got it equal at your top and bottom, you'll be good. So let me go ahead and stitch these again, top and bottom. I'm going to decrease my stitch length. Again, back stitch. Oops, probably should turn the machine back on. Sorry, I had to step away from after I got my placket done. Okay, now we're ready to go. All right, so let's get this. Whoa, we don't want to go that fast, but we can. Move that out of the way. Now we're going to sew the bottom piece. Whoops. Oh. That's why we should be putting them on the magnets, right? That's why we got the magnets there, so we don't lose our snips. Okay. All right. Clean up my threads real quick. Alrighty. So now you're just going to take this pocket and turn it right side out. Like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to only top stitch one side of your pocket where you've sewn it together. I'm going to throw a couple clips in here as I straighten out my piece to make sure, I'll show you here what I'm doing, to make sure, because we are going to top stitch on a seam, I don't want the back part of my pocket or my seam to show in the front because I want it to look nice and clean. So I am rolling this where it's just slightly behind, where you can barely see, where the seam is not quite at the top, just the smidgen behind. Here, I'll show you here in 2 seconds. See how you can see that's going to be the top of my the top of my pocket, and there's the seam where it was sewn together. But what I did is I just barely laid that behind there, just so I got a nice clean top. Now, if you fold it down like this, it should still, you should still be able to keep where it's just at least the seam is at the bottom. But this is going to be the bottom of the pocket right here where we're not going to top stitch, so it won't be as noticeable where it's in the bottom of the bag. Okay, that's why I want the top to be nice and clean. So I'm going to get my top stitch length, and I'm going to go ahead and top stitch again, only one side, or one side of the pocket where we stitched it together, still leaving those sides, raw edge sides, open, and we're not stitching those shut. Okay, using the same color of thread on the interior as I am on the exterior. Still doesn't look bad. I mean, you can change it out if you're using colors. It's not bad looking. I mean, I found another lining that I should have used for this bag. It's still this one. I love this one. This is Zen Blossoms Smoothie Smooth by Tulip Bee. I love it, but she's got one, I can't think of the name of it, but it's got more orange in it, and it's a darker lining, darker background, and I think that would look really nice with the color of the exterior. But I didn't realize it until too late, but that's fine. Okay, so this is what we have done for our slip pocket. Again, just top stitching the one side. So now you're going to grab, what was this piece called again? I think it's called lining. Let me get that. I didn't mark it because I cut by ruler. Give me 2 seconds and I will get the exact name of what this is called. Of course, that piece is, here's my guess, the center. So give me 2 more seconds here, I'll have it. There it is. Center lining is what this is called. You'll have one piece and it's called center lining, okay? So you're gonna take this piece here, lay it horizontally, this horizontal, and then she gives you a measurement to go down from this, from the top here, and this is the top, the short edge is the top of your bag. She'll give you a measurement to go down to place your slip pocket. So you first want to find your center. Let me get the other scissors here. That way you can make sure everything's set straight, because you're going to make sure you're going to want to make sure your pocket piece is straight when you put it on there, as well as you will need the centers at the top for when you place your zipper placket and your top lining top. Okay, so my centers are marked. I'm going to find my center on this piece, and since of course I can't snip at the top, I'm going to make a tiny little mark that nobody will see, just so I know that that is it. Now you can divide this pocket if you want. This is not one of those large pockets. If you divide it in half, that's the width that you would get. This is it folded in half. You can do that, or you can just leave it one full pocket. I think one full pocket is sufficient with this bag. And rather than, I don't want to divide it, but of course you can divide it if you want to. So let me grab my ruler. Here it is. Wanted to get my big ruler so I can keep it laid down. So I'm going to lay this down and place it at the measurement she gives you. Make sure it's a flat surface here that I'm working with. There we go. So I'm just going to measure down at the measurement she gives you in the pattern. Find my center, find my line, make sure it's nice and straight. And I'm going to take this piece, making sure it's still centered. Now, even though this piece should be the exact width of your piece, you should really always want to make sure it's centered. I'm going to clip this on. If I can get up underneath that piece, there we go. I'm just going to hold this and keep it in place. And then once I clip it, I'm still going to check my measurement to make sure it didn't shift. Okay. There we go. All right, and I'm just going to hold it down and just try to keep it flat. Let's get this out of the way. I will still double check it once I get the other side clipped as well, just in case it shifts. Love this vinyl. I love this lining, the Smoothie Smooth for lining, but it's not named Smoothie Smooth for a reason, right? Okay. Double checking, making sure this pocket is straight. It still looks good. I'm going to baste the pocket on the sides, okay? The raw edges are going to get basted on, and then I'm also going to go across the bottom, and that will close up the bottom of my pocket. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm still on my basting stitch / top stitch length, which is a 5. I'm sewing this on with a 5 in case anybody wants to know. I'm using a 5. A lot of people do use 4.5 to 5. I've been increasing mine to 5 lately. I kind of like the look of the stitch on the 5. Whoa. Slow down. All right, we're just going to close this up. I just keep my hand on there to keep it flat so it doesn't get puckered. Now you could, I should say, and usually sometimes I do this when I have a pocket that is a full pocket or a larger width pocket. I will sometimes throw just a little snap right here because I am a person that I don't want to call it a saggy pocket because this is nowhere near a saggy pocket, but it's a larger pocket, and when you start dropping stuff in a larger bag, sometimes it gets caught on the pocket. To me, and a snap would keep it closed and it would look nice. But we're not going to do that on this one. This one's not that bad. I think once I make the lining tight in the bag, I think we should be good as far as the lining piece. Okay. So we got that sewn on. Now we're going to stitch on our side pieces. So in your pattern, you'll have 4 side pieces to your lining. So you'll have 4 sides, just like that. You're going to mirror them. So you'll have 2 going one way, 2 going the other direction. Okay? So you'll have them one. I'm going to grab one on, whoops, we want one of each opposing sides. See how I've got them like that? You're going to grab a set of that. Take your other set and put that aside because you will use that for your zipper pocket. All right. Somehow my lining is really long, so I will have to figure out what I did on that, which is fine. We can clean that up. I think I cut it on a fold and I didn't need to cut it on the long fold. Yeah. So what I will need to do now, if you see, you can see this. I cut my lining piece too long. I must have cut it on a fold and I didn't need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pattern piece and I'm going to lay it on top here. I'm going to do it backwards because I'm just going to draw a line and then cut it with scissors. It'll be a little quicker. So I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to cut this out. But I'm going to mark a line with my pen. I just had it, there it is. And you do have a curve to the bottom of your lining. So that's kind of neat. I like that. You got a nice little curve to the bottom to fit into your bag. So I'm just cut this. I'm going to trim this real quick. I think I cut this on a fold or something. I'm not quite sure what I did, but we can fix it, right? It's not a situation where it cannot be fixed or we have a too short of a piece. The mistakes, if you make a mistake and as long as that mistake doesn't require you to cut a whole new piece out, that to me is a good mistake, right? So we're going to take that piece and set it aside. Boom, there we go. Easy peasy fix. All right, now we're going to take one of our sides, line it up like that, give it a clip. I'll show you here in 2 seconds how we get this set up. I'm going to go ahead and put on both sides right now since they are not going to oppose each other as far as get each other's way. Okay, got a couple more clips. And guys, too, I also want to make mention, I intend to do a live of this bag. Now it seems like a lot and it seems like a big live, but I'll have some pieces ready. So we're not spending a lot of time on this bag during a live, but what I'd like to do is decrease this pattern by 70 to 75% of the original. I think that will be a really neat, cute little crossbody bag with the design and everything. And I'd like to do that live, and I'd also like to show you the quilting process on the sides in a live. On one of the sides. I'll have one ready and then I'll do one on a live just to show that process on one of the sides since this tutorial is the center. I don't have the exact date at the posting of this video. I won't have the exact date, but please, if you join my, number one, if you join my YouTube, become a subscriber and turn your notifications on, I will post it on that as well as my Facebook group, at Quilted Cactus. I will post that as well. I will also, if I can, post it on other Facebook pages for fellow YouTubers. Some allow us to do that. So if I can, I will post it there as well. But please join my Facebook group as well as join my YouTube if you're not already a subscriber. And you can get all your updates, of course, and notifications when I do this. Again, like I say, I don't know what the exact date is. It will be soon. I'm going to try to do it in less than a week after this pattern is released. So that is my plan. Cross your fingers, say a little prayer, work doesn't interfere. Because my job is what... The job is what pays for this fun, right? I mean, I have my craft shows and stuff, but in all reality, the job is what pays for it, right? All right, so I stitched that on. See, I've got them both clipped on like that. This now is stitched on at the seam allowance she gives. You're going to open it up, give it a nice little press. You can do it with your hands, iron, however you like to do it. I'm not going to top stitch yet because I don't want to change my stitch length just yet. So I'm going to go ahead and sew on my other side. So both are now stitched on. Whoops, don't cut the lining. All right, now I'm going to increase my stitch length to my top stitch. Probably didn't have to on this, it wasn't far off. I sewed these on at a 4, my top stitch is at a 5, but it's a lining. It may not be as noticeable as if it were on the exterior, but you know, if you can try to keep it consistent, it's best to do it if you can, you know what I'm saying. All right, so let's top stitch these down. Okay, here's side 1. Let's get the other side. There we go. So yeah, be tuned for that because it will be a full 100% sew. So it may take a minute, but of course you can always join in at any time as well as watch it in replay because I always post my lives in replay. I've got her Alana petals, or Ivana's I should say. Ilana, I did a live with that. That was fun. And I have a full tutorial as well on that. And that's a cute little bag. Everybody loves that bag when I take them to the show. So there's my lining. Now you can see it's just a tad bit longer. Just grab your scissors and you can just clean that up. Just to give it a little curve like that. And you can clean that up. Not a big deal. It's your lining. It's just a little extra. And you're just snipping just that little bit off. Okay, so there is side 1 of your lining. There's your pocket. Now let's go to our zipper pocket. I'm going to set my zipper pull to the side. I always put my zipper pulls on at the last possible moment. I just don't like trying to sew on a zipper with a zipper pull on. Don't ask me why. It's just, that's just the way I do it. I do, yes, sometimes forget my zipper pulls because of that, but I've always got a fix when I do it. Okay, so I've got my zipper pull. I have my zipper pocket upper part, which is like a nice thin piece. I have my zipper pocket, what's that say? Lower part. I got zip pocket low. So zipper pocket lower part. This will be the part that has the curve at the bottom. It's just a slight curve. That's going to be the exterior. Or that's what you're going to see in your lining. And then this is your zipper pocket. Oops, I lied to you again. This is the zipper pocket liner. So there's, that's got a curve on that. Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your zipper pocket lower part, which is the shorter of the 2 pieces. Now, if you want your zipper pocket to be a different fabric, color, obviously you can do that. That might, you know, keep your pieces a little bit more organized if you don't have everything the same. But the zipper pocket lower part is the smaller of the 2 pieces. Okay, I'm going to put some double-sided tape at the top, which is the shorter edge of the piece. Okay, so let's go ahead and get some double-sided tape placed down. So because my zipper is going to go right here. Okay, let me get these out of the way. All right, and then I'm going to take my zipper and I'm going to lay it wrong side, I'm sorry, right, you're going to technically be right side together. The right side of your zipper is going to go to the right side of your piece. Zipper face down, I guess you could say. All right, let's get that backing off. Place this down. Now my zipper is cut longer than she gives. That just gives me that little extra play. Number one, for when I add my zipper pull. And number two, just to keep my zipper out a little bit in case it's a little too short or just wide enough. I just like that little extra. All right. So let's push that down so it's stiff. All right, so we are going to, let's see, place a zipper tape, right, and sew like a basting stitch. She gives you a real small seam allowance, and it's basically a basting stitch. So you're going to you're basting your zipper onto your lower pocket piece. I'm going just a hair more than that simply because I have tape, zipper tape there, or zipper tape, double-sided tape there. So I went a little bit more than what she suggests, only, like I said, only because there is double-sided tape there. I'm trying to keep it off of my needle, which I need to check my needle. No, it feels okay. All right. So now what we're going to do is you're going to take the larger piece, the zipper pocket lining, okay? And you're going to place it right side to right side on this piece here. All right, let me get some zipper tape here and I'll get this placed. Let me go ahead and do a quick pause. I need to do something really quick and I will be right back. Sorry. Okay, we're back. Now, I'm going to tell you what I did because I do need to make sure there's a clarification in the instructions that I just gave you when it came to the zipper pocket. So what happened was, you know how I said that that center piece was way too long and I wasn't sure what I did? Well, I do know what I did. I accidentally used my zipper pocket lining instead of my center lining. So, two things to take away from this. Make sure you're labeled correctly. If anything, put the pattern piece on like I did this. I didn't do it on these pieces. I did little notes and they weren't very good written. I did not write very well what, let me reword that. I didn't write very clearly what these are for. So if you have to, you can just clip the pattern piece to it to make sure you're clear on the pieces. So, because what I did is I had to go back. Fortunately, I had just enough of this left. I could have used another piece, but I had enough of this left to go ahead and make another piece. You know how I said it's always good to have a little more than a little less when you make a mistake? Well, that time I had a little less, like that. So, that is what I had to do, is I had to go cut me another piece really quick, and that's the longest piece, is the zipper pocket lining. I think she calls it pocket lining, is basically what it's called. All right, so I'm gonna grab my pocket lining, horizontal, long side up. I'm going to put some double-sided tape there. And I apologize for the misdirection on when I did the slip pocket. I will make sure when I do my editing on this video, I will clarify that I used the incorrect piece for that. So, and I apologize if you get it after the fact. All right, double-sided tape. I'm going to take this, we're going to put this, again, we're going to put this right sides together, making that nice little zipper sandwich. Everybody likes a good zipper sandwich, right? Sorry, bad joke, bad joke. Get my box brought up back over to me, somehow I kicked it. All right, so we're just going to line this up. Make sure you can mark your centers and then mark it with the centers. But I'm going to just line it up with my edges of my piece that's already there, because this piece is of the same width. So we're going to line it up, tack it down like that. Everything lines up nicely. And then you're going to sew this at the seam allowance that she gives you. Okay. Let's go, let's see, what did she say? Okay. And I'm going to use the seam allowance that she gives in this pattern. That way the piece is not wrong size when it's finished. Whoa. All right. All right, got my threads cleaned up. So this is what it looks like once it's sewn. You've got your zipper pocket lower portion, your zipper pocket lining, and then you've got your zipper right in the between. You're going to take these, pull them, take them apart, and then you're going to fold this back or down over, and then you're going to end up with the wrong sides together of your pieces, and then your zipper tape is going to be sticking up like that. You're going to go ahead and press it down either by fingers, by a roller, however you choose. Give it a nice little press. This stuff, you kind of got to work with it a little bit. All right, and I'm going to top stitch this down. I have to hold on to these pieces to make sure it's a good piece where it's not puckered up into the zipper. There we go. Let me hold that tape, or threads I should say. All right. I'm gonna go slow only because I want to make sure my zipper's not wonky when I do this. Top stitch, cleaning up my threads. There we go. So there you go. That's my zipper pocket. That's going to be my pocket lining. And then that's the front, the lower portion of my zipper pocket. So once you get, and then you've got it top stitched. So once you get that done, you're going to take the bottom of your zipper pocket lining and go up like this, fold it up to where you're creating that pocket, and you're going to go to the top of your zipper, and then you're going to tack it to the top of your zipper like that. So when you unzip your zipper, there's your pocket. So you're going to go up to the top of the zipper tape. Now you can do one of two things. You can just put that on and then baste it as she writes in her directions, in which I'll do that. I'll do it the way it's written in the pattern. But you can also go ahead and sandwich that little top piece at the same time. If you're comfortable with doing that, go ahead, but we're going to do it the way the pattern's written. So just in case somebody sees this and they're like, oh, but you can go ahead and sandwich it. I do know that. And if it was me just making the bag without doing a tutorial on it, that's what I would have done. But we want to do it the way that it's written. All right, so I got put my double-sided tape at the bottom of this piece, which is going to become the top, if that makes sense, of your tape. So I'm going to take my zipper tape, my zipper tape, my zipper tape, line it up, make sure it's straight, meaning make sure these line up here, and then lay it down. Let's make sure I'm not off center anywhere. I do see a pocket peeking through here, so give me a quick second. Here we go. All right, see, this is, oh, that looks a little, that's not straight. Give me a second here. There we go. So you see how my back of my pocket goes up over the zipper? You don't see the zipper tape at all. It's attached right there. You can see that, okay? You're gonna go ahead and baste this on. Okay. You guys, when I get done, I have this box that I sit down and I drop my stuff, my garbage into, but I tell you what, I think I miss it more than I hit, and for some reason the threads just like float away, and when I get done sewing a project or two, I'm cleaning up some threads here just so it doesn't peek out, but anyways, when I get done with a project or two, I'll sweep it up. I don't know. It's just like, it's crazy the amount of thread I sweep up that doesn't make it into that box. I only mention that because I look down when I'm dropping these threads and I see a mess. So guess what Tony gets to do? Because I was working on another project yesterday, and so I've got two things going right now. More than two, but we'll just say two right now. All right. So this is what it looks like. This is based on like that. All right. Now you're going to take your zipper pocket upper part, this tiny little piece here, put some more double-sided tape on, and I know I've mentioned this, but if you'd rather do clips, again, that's totally, of course, up to you. Clips are, I mean, you don't go through as much tape that I do, but I sure do like this stuff. I'm not going to lie. I sure do like double-sided tape. All right. Let's take that off. And then you're going to place this right sides together to your zipper, the top of your zipper tape, making sure, of course, you're lined up with your pocket. Oh, this hard to see because the back of my lining is white and I'm trying to line it up with a white zipper tape. There we go, that's better. Just make sure it lines up well and that your piece, you know, is straight. All right, now we're going to sew this on at the seam allowance that she gives. Okay. And then we're going to fold this piece up. There you go, like that. And then you're going to fold it up and you're going to top stitch. So there you go. So there's your zipper pocket piece, and there's your pocket right there. It's a nice sized pocket. Now I'm going to install my zipper, because your next step is you're going to get your other pieces of your side pieces. You're going to grab the other two that you have. But let me install my zipper real quick. I just had it in my hand. There it is right here. So let me get my zipper installed. I have not trimmed down my zipper yet. I will do that once my side pieces are stitched on. That way I can trim it down after it's sewn on. Again, that's just my personal preference. If you're not comfortable doing that, you should put your zipper on when zipper pull on when she tells you to. All right. Keeping my zipper pull in the center. I am not going to go all the way to the other side at this point because I want to keep my zipper closed. All right. Taking it, we're going to do just like we did on the slip pocket. We're going to sew these to the side and then top stitch. So we're going to go ahead and get that done. I will fast forward through this motion so you don't have to see me do the exact same thing again. even though I think I probably already did that in a few previous steps. But anyway, we will spare you on this. So we'll fast forward through this portion, and I'll be back once my zipper pocket lining part is completed 100%. Alrighty, there we go. Now, I did, if you see, and I cleaned it up a little bit. I'm going to match them up, make sure they are the same size. Everything, to make sure everything looks good. This one is just a smidgen bigger than the other. I'm talking just the tiniest little bit. So I'm just going to trim off of that little tiny bit off the one side. It's not, I don't think it's going to mess up my center, but it's going to mess me up when I sew them together. So I'm just going to trim it off. There we go. Just that little bit. All right. So these are ready to go. Now we're going to go ahead and add our zipper plackets and our the contrast lining, and this is going to get sewed to the top of your lining. However, it is exterior pieces, because that'll give you that nice, complete, nice look on the inside of the bag when you look down. Now I've already got mine marked. My interfacing is below the line, because this, since again it's a drop-in lining, so I've got it marked as per her instructions. And then I've already got my double-sided tape on here. I've tried to prep it as much as I can, and then I've got it away from my seam allowances. So there's a nice little piece of Decoville light in there in these pieces. I've already got my centers marked on these on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to take my zipper placket. I'm going to grab, I always start with the quote-unquote back of the bag, meaning I always put my zipper pocket toward the back side of the bag. So I'm going to take my lining, my front piece, my slip pocket piece, and oh, sorry, I just put my knee into the side of the table. And one of my contrast lining pieces, I'm going to grab my zipper placket, and I'm going to go ahead and keep it together. Right now, when I sew this part on, I do like just to keep my placket together as I sew it. That way I can always remember where my the direction of the placket. I don't separate it until after I get this sewn together. I'm going to find the center of my lining at the top. I'm going to go ahead and find the lining center at the bottom while I'm marking the top, because I will need that for when I do the gusset. So let's go ahead and find the center of the bottom as well. All right. And then I'm going to, I want my zipper, my bag to open from left to right. That's my preference. So when it's on the bag. So what I'm going to do is, and you always sew your zipper placket right side up. Because what it'll do is that when you zip it closed, it'll be, the top will be like that. Okay. So I'm going to center this on. Now you can baste this on first if you want to, if you're not comfortable. I do not. What I'm doing is I'm going to mark it in my centers, make sure it's placed down in the center correctly. Okay. And then I'm going to do my contrast lining piece, and we're going to go ahead and make a zipper placket sandwich. With my centers marked, I'm going to go ahead and place this down like that. I'm going to pick up one of my clips, my other clip. That way everything's centered nicely. And then of course, then I'm going to work my way out and clip. Keep in mind, your placket will not go to the very end. So I always like to put a clip right there, but I always make sure I clip the very end, because when you're sewing and stepping off of that thickness, sometimes your piece will move a little bit. So you just want to be conscious of that. And I need one more clip like that. There we go. So that's nice. We're going to go ahead and stitch it down with the seam allowance. Let me take this back down off my top stitch length. All right. All right. All right, so that's what you got there. Zipper placket, front of your lining, and there's your contrast. So you're going to take this now, fold this up, including the placket. It'll want to go with you, so just work with that, and then fold your seam allowance down to the lining, and you're going to top stitch on the lining that at 1/8 of an inch from the edge from the edge of the top of the lining. So you're going to do a top stitch there. What that does is that holds, of course, it holds this piece down, and it keeps your it kind of gives it, I want to call it shape, but it gives it that hold when you unzip your bag or have your placket sitting at the top of your bag. Oh, I need to go increase my stitch length, and we're going to top stitch this down. Just be mindful of the layers, because of course you are going through now yet another couple of layers. All right. Clean that up. My piece is just a smidgen. I'm going to clip this back a little bit. Just a little bit over my lining. So I'm just going, since it's just a straight edge, I am just going to clean that up. Nothing big. It's just, I think my seam allowances probably are a little closer to the widest part of the seam allowance, if that makes sense. Okay, so there's my zipper pocket. See, it's all cleaned up. It's ready to go. It's a nice big pocket. It's all sealed up. So this is set to go, ready to be stitched. I'm going to do the lining, or the, I should not say the lining, but the slip pocket side. So basically, I'll show you real fast before I sew it together. You can either sew it like this, which is quite an easy way of doing it. That way you're not worried about, let me get my zipper tail out of the way here. My nice long zipper tail. Sometimes I make them so. One time I had it where I was at the end of a zipper tape, and I never did cut it, and I didn't cut it till the end, and it was just so long. I might have had it in a, might have been a live or a tutorial, but anyway, my placket is bigger than my clip. There we go. It doesn't want to hold. Okay, so pocket lining. You're going to take this, and you're going to see how my placket is face up here, and my pocket piece is face down to that. You can go ahead and clip it on like this. That way you're knowing that it's the right way up, like that. You can either, there's two ways you can do this. You can either go ahead and separate your zipper, which that's what I am going to do, or you can unzip it. If you've got that little stay stitch, or however you want to hold it, like a clip or something like that, you can do that. Or unzip it like that to the end as far as you can go, where you've got your little stopping point here, and separate it like this. That makes it very easy, much easier to sew it on, because when you put this piece on, this will get, this piece will get into the way of stitching this on to the lining. So, oh, I didn't find my centers on this piece. So I am going to stitch this on. And then once I get it stitched on, I will be back, and then we will, I'll get it stitched on as well as top stitched. And then once we do that, we will move on to getting the gusset attached to the lining. And after we do the gusset to the lining, guys, top stitch and we're done. Honestly, well, besides folding these down. I mean, that takes a little minute. I'm already taped up, so that shouldn't take as long as it normally would. Okay, just make sure you put this in the right direction, and then go ahead and we'll get this clipped on, and I'll be right back. All right, so there is my front, what I consider the front of my bag lining, and then there's my zipper, so everything's put together there. So now we're going to grab, oh, I forgot, we got to sew one piece onto our gusset before we move on to actually attaching the gusset to the bag. My apologies, thought we were that close. We were close. All right, we're gonna grab our other two gusset piece A's. There's two that we have left. We're gonna get those two pieces. These also will have interfacing Decaville at the bottom below the line, because this will be part of our lining and the drop-in. So you're going to have your Decaville placed below that line that she gives you. I tell you, I swear I think I cleaned this up, but I think every time I look at it, I see more. So I'm just going to clean that interfacing, because again, I put that SF101 on the back of this vinyl because I wanted a nice stiff, not a stiff bag, but I wanted a nice straight bag. Okay, so this is your, and you're going to grab your gusset lining piece, which is going to be one nice long piece. We're not going to be piecing it together except for the very top. So the top of your gusset, lining gusset, you're going to take your upper or gusset piece A, and you're going to right sides together at the top, and you're going to stitch both of these pieces on to the top of your lining. Just make sure it's centered, or just mark your centers, and you can do it that way. Just make sure it's lined up. You will have a little corner peak sticking out because the bottom is wider than the top, and when you place it right side together, you'll get that little peak sticking out. All right. Okay, let's get this out of the way. Gonna stitch the other one on, and then, oh, and then you're gonna top stitch. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. So you're gonna fold this up, seam allowance going down on this piece, and they're gonna stitch on the lining, top stitch on the lining. Okay, like that. And then you're going to do it to the exact, you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side of the top of the lining. Okay, so there's your gusset. Like that, so it's ready to go. So what you're going to do then is you're going to find your center of your gusset. Excuse me. Okay, so my gusset, the center of my gusset is marked. So you're going to grab one of your lining pieces, making sure the bottom of your lining piece center is marked, which I did not do that to my pocket side. So let me get the bottom marked. All right, and the top is marked still, so we're good with that. All right, so you're going to take your gusset, lining gusset, place, whoops, let's put this right side up. Place your gusset, lining, to put them right sides together. And we're going to do this just like we did the exterior. We're going to clip, put a couple clips on the center, like that. Bring it up to the side. Now, I'll do it from this side. I'm going to clip this zipper tail up a little bit. There we go. Now, I'm going to show you real quick. So, because you've got this piece here, the contrast lining here, and then you got that little top piece here, you first want to match these up so they line up and they're not off center when you look down in your bag. I am going to snip these little corners off to reduce some bulk. If you do it, just be careful when you do it. You don't want to get into your stitches. So I'm just alleviating some bulk for when this has to be stitched together. Okay, I'm just going to do a couple little snips real fast. Oops. There we go. One more. There we go. All right, like I said, I'm just taking some bulk away. All right, so excuse me. So you want to mark these first. I would do a clip above and a clip below just to hold it in place, and then bring it up and clip at the top. This is, I mean, that way you're looking here. If this is off in any which way, you could always clean that up. It's usually not off, but if your seam allowance is a little too much or a little, you know, too little, you'll have that little bit extra at the top that you just need to clean up. All right, I'm going to do the same thing to this side. And then just like, as I'm getting ready to say, just like you do with your lining or your exterior, I'm going to go down. So all of these, so both of my gussets on, just exactly like the exterior. And once I get it on, then we'll be back once my lining is completely assembled together. Couple notes, you may have to snip into your lining. We didn't have to with the exterior, but just because the exterior we didn't have to snip, lining you may, simply because number one, it's a larger seam allowance once you get into the body of the bag. And number two, your lining obviously is a different material. So that may cause you to do some snips just based on materials as well. So just a couple things to note. And then again, I will be back once my lining is completely done and we're ready to put the bag together. Yeah, I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, so my lining now is completely put together. And then looking at this, I noticed that this is just about 1/8 of an inch higher. That is the only side, and it could be the way I did my seam allowance on this. So I can hide that in my, when I fold it down for the drop-in lining. So once you get your lining all sewn together, you're going to trim down your seam allowance on your lining bag. I start just below that line. See that line there for my drop down? I start below that, and then I do it just like I do the exterior. I come in at like a little angle and do a little swoop, and then cut this about 1/8 to 1/4 away from the stitching. Now this is a lining. You don't need to do that double stitching like you did on the exterior, or like I did on the exterior. This is your lining piece, so you don't need to worry about that. So just go around and clean that edge up, or clean those seam allowances up, I guess you could say. Just be careful when you get towards the top, and then just veer off just like that. All right, let's get the other side. All right. There we go. So my lining is trimmed down. All right, so now we're gonna go, and once that's all cleaned up, we're gonna get our lining and our exterior ready for the drop down. Now, as I said, I already have my double-sided tape on the all around it. And I do that for a reason, because I know I stitch through my tape. That is, I do that for a reason, and I'll show you why. So I'm going to go ahead and pull off one side here, and then I'm going to pull off that little edge there that was sewn through, because of course that separates my backing. And then I'm going to open up your seam allowance, or I'm opening my seam allowance and folding it over, and then that will, because I've got that tape there, that will hold that open nicely. Now what I'm going to do too, and I did this to my exterior, I'm going to throw a piece of double-sided tape along this edge here like that. If you can see that, I think you should be able to see that. I'm going to fold, I'm putting it just long ways. It doesn't have to really be the full length. What this does is it helps that to lay flat better, I should say, because that could potentially pop, and then it won't lay really nice in the bag. And I like that this helps it to lay a little nicer. I'm just throwing a little bit on there, and then I'll just peel as I do my fold down. All right, so this is the side I've already got ready. So I'm going to go ahead then and open this seam up, take that little off, and then open the seam up, fold this down like that, and that's nice and tight. I did not put a piece of tape here, so let me do that real quick. These are just, and this is just something I do for me, because the way I like to lay flat like that. It just, like I say, it just helps. Otherwise it kind of pulls up a little bit. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and fold this down. Let's see, let's do this, get this side started too, and that way when I start folding, it'll fold this as well, because it's going to want to fold this. So we're going to start folding down. Again, we're going to fold the top to the line that you've already marked. And if you're worried about your tape not holding it down, you can always throw some clips in. And then what I typically do as well is I'll go ahead, let me get this one opened up. You'll notice I like to tape, but anyways, I will go ahead and just put a little short piece here like that over top the side that the tape is already done. You don't have to, because there should be enough tape where it shouldn't want to pull away, but this does, you know, especially since this is the thicker part of the bag. So I'm just going to take this, hold it, fold that down, and then just go all the way around the bag. I'm going to go ahead and get this all folded down, and then once I have it all folded down, I will be back. Again, I'll just fast forward through this. You're going to do this to the exterior of the bag as well. The exact same thing I am doing to the lining piece. So I'm going to get both of them folded down, and then once both the exterior and the lining top is folded down, then I will be right back we can stitch it up together. So I'll be right back. So I've got my exterior of the bag. It's all folded down. And you can see what it looks like on the inside. And then my seams are open where my bag comes together. My lining as well, it's all folded and ready to go like that. And you're going to keep your lining like this. We're going to do 2 Tony's tips. Okay, I need to put like a warning to let you all know I'm getting ready to do a tip. So something I started doing recently is when I do drop-in linings, I have been putting some tape just below. You can see how it's out of where I'm going to do my top stitching. So just below at the base of where the fold is, where the edge of the bag is, the raw edge I should say, I put some double-sided tape. I use 1/4 inch. There's two reasons why I do it. Number one, I sew, as you can see, it's a flatbed. I don't have a cylinder arm, and I will not sew this on my domestic like at the table and have the table of my arm off my the table off of my domestic and sew it. I just won't do it. I've ruined bags trying to go through vinyl with that domestic. So it'll hold it still when I go to sew it, because of the way I have to hold it and push it up against the nose of my machine, and the clips constantly are hitting this, and they're coming off anyways, and it just becomes a hassle for me. So I do this partly for my sanity, so it doesn't slip. And number two, like I say, actually I kind of incorporated the 2 reasons. Is first the slippage of my piece, so it doesn't slip when I'm sewing it, and the fact that these clips will butt up against the nose, and it just becomes, again, a hassle. So I just don't like it. Tip number 2, which this isn't really my tip. Oops, you don't want a stapler. This is more or less a bag maker's tip, I guess you could say. I don't know how to word it. I'm trying to find a piece of scrap real close handy. Foam will work. This will work. If you have a pair of pliers. Now, I highly recommend getting smooth pliers if you can. I had a pair of smooth. They were like jewelry pliers, and they had plastic tips. The plastic kept falling off. I tried to super glue them on. That didn't work. I ended up getting a pair of needle nose pliers that does have ridges on them. So, with caution, and I warn you, with caution, if you do have to do needle nose and you do have ridges, make sure you've got either a piece of scrap vinyl, scrap material, scrap something that you place over your piece when you do what I'm getting ready to show you. When you've got these thick pieces here, like this, where you've got the seams to come together, and then you're folding it down, so you in essence have 4 layers here, and then when you stitch it, put it inside your lining, you've got your 4 layers here. You're going to have 8 layers of lining material, vinyl. That's a lot, and even an industrial can struggle through that. So get your pliers, get a scrap, fold it over that seam right there like this to protect, and that's to protect your vinyl, and then give it a good little squeeze. I can't squeeze very well. There's my squeeze there. And what this does is it helps distribute the thickness of the vinyl, flatten it a little bit, so you don't have so much thickness to sew through. It does work when you do it right. And just, like, again, be very careful, especially if you have to use pliers that have ridges on them. So your warning is out there, and I don't want you to get mad at me if you ruin your vinyl, because I would not want that to happen for 2 reasons. I wouldn't want you to ruin your vinyl. That would be absolutely heartbreaking, because again, I have tried to sew vinyl thickness with a domestic, ripped my vinyl. I have an absolutely gorgeous bag that I made. It's actually a petal pattern. It's the Ray, R-E-A, and the vinyl is messed up at the top. And I've never sat down to figure out how to fix it. One of these days I will come up with a fix, but I just can't for right now. Let's see, so that's good. And then you're going to do it again on the other side. Let's see if I can squeeze this good enough with my hands. That's good enough. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and take my tape off. Actually, I'm going to insert it, because if I take my tape off first, then I have problems sometimes trying to set it down. So I'm going to make sure that's my front. Place my lining down in here. Oh, that's a nice lining fit. That really looks nice. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing to my tape. And then I am going to set it and forget it. Just joking. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that or not. I'm going to set it and do that. Now, I do put a couple clips in. I mean, I don't like not clip it at all. But just on some key points like my centers. So you're matching when you drop it in. Oh, let me move my camera. I'm sorry. Ooh, there was me. I'm matching my centers, making sure everything sets nicely, being careful of how I place it. Make sure you try to keep it as even as possible. Now I'm going to match my sides here. I'm going to put a clip in here on all these intersections just to hold it in that spot, because once I set all of this, then I'm going to go around and squeeze my tape into my bag, on my bag I should say, not into my bag, but this is really thick, so my clip's not going to want to clip in there either. Doing the same thing here. You just want to match those seams up, even though that thickness is crazy. There we go. All right, now that all these little key points are done, I'm just going to go around and just ease this bag in place. And if it looks like it wants to come apart and it doesn't want to set nice, I can always throw a clip in here. Especially since I got my tape setting so far down on some spots. But you're just going to kind of go around and squeeze it in place. You're not going to pull or tug. Usually you can get it to go down and get it to lay nicely like that, where you don't have any puckers or anything. Sometimes it looks like it might not fit, but if you just press it, everything lays nicely. I think I need to put a clip here because this wants to not hold shut, so we'll clip that side. Look at that. There we go. Woof. That looks really nice. And then there's the inside of my bag. Doesn't that look beautiful? Okay, now we're going to top stitch this complete. Now, again, I sew on a flatbed. I'm going to turn my camera. I cannot sew the bag with my bobbin thread inside. It's just not possible. It will just totally just mess up this bag. My bobbin is set very nicely. I don't know how I did it, but my tension on my bobbin sets very nicely, where I can stitch my bag like this, where the exterior is my bobbin thread and the interior is my top thread. That's usually not recommended to do, but again, I can do it. My bobbin tension sets nicely, and knock on wood, I haven't had that issue on this bag. So, with all that being said, if you cannot do it that way and you are scared of your bobbin not being a nice, good, even top stitch, you can turn your whole complete bag inside out and stitch it like this. This is for flat beds. Turn your bag inside out and then stitch it with your, like setting it like this, but again, you've got your lining on the outside and your exterior. It's a lot of turning. You've got to worry about wrinkles, but that is an option. I did, as just to note, I did earlier today go through and use, I actually had to use my hair dryer. I couldn't find my daughter's heat dryer or heat gun, which that I can be more precise with my application of the heat, but I did go with a hair dryer at the high heat and I heated it up on the inside really hot, and try to press it out there. It was looking okay, but I ended up going in with my iron and just hitting that steam button. I mean, seriously, steam the inside of this bag to where you just have to be careful as far as that, because it got really hot. And then I just went through and I kind of did this. I'll show you I'll try to show you the best I can. I kind of went, this is of course without the lining, but I went in and did this kind of business just to help work that heat and that Decoville to get the wrinkles out. I think I was successful in doing that. Anything left will work its way out with this vinyl. But anyway, enough of all of that. Let's get it done. What I like to do is I like to find a spot where typically it's not seen. I will backstitch because this thread blends very nicely into this bag. Otherwise, you would pull your threads long and then work your threads down into the bag. And she gives fantastic instructions on how to do that. Maybe we'll do that on my live, because I'll probably end up using a contrasting thread on my live, and obviously you don't want to backstitch on that. So I'm going to start, let me get my tablet out of the way because I don't need it right now. Set it somewhere where I won't step on the screen. Okay, so I'm going to start off in an inconspicuous spot, which is usually around the side of the bag, off kind of where the gusset area is, because that's not as noticeable. Let me get some of these clips again. I've got clips coming out of the way, getting in the way. I got zipper pocket down so it doesn't get in your way. And then I'm going to get my clip, and then you're going to top stitch this all the way around. Oh, let me get my top stitch length increased. Grab my threads. Make sure you hold on to those threads when you do this, so you don't get especially since my bobbin thread's at the bottom. Let me do, and I'm just doing 2 stitches that I'm going to back stitch on. And I'll just back stitch one. I'm going to take 2 steps, 2 stitches, and then back stitch 1 stitch. That's how I'm doing that. And just kind of, just be careful when you get to those corners where it's that 8 thickness. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to top stitch this bag. And just take it slow. Honestly, take it slow. Every time I try to speed up top stitching, I regret it. So just make sure when you get really close to that end that you're not missing it. I'm going to hand crank it. Oh, and don't slip your piece either. So there we go. I just hand cranked it into that original starting spot and then back stitch from there. Just 2 little back stitches. That way you're not back stitching over back stitches, if that makes sense. So that looks nice there. All right, everything, oh, it does, it looks good. Okay, let me do a quick little, if you melt your threads like this, be extremely careful that you don't melt your, oh, why is my lighter wanting to do that? That's dangerous, isn't it? Okay, maybe because I'm holding it upside down, I don't know. There we go. Just be very, very careful when you do this on vinyl. You don't want to melt your vinyl. I just want to get that thread cleaned up a little bit. So there you go. Oops, that's the back. That's the front. There's my top stitching. All right, now we'll set that there. Let's do this. We'll set that there. Pretty bag, pretty bag. I'm gonna grab my strap. Now remember, I didn't have enough vinyl to make a strap with this vinyl. So I have the next best option. Look at this strap. I mean, perfect match. This came from Sally Tomato. You can get this other places, this color and this design. I have this design in a different color and darker colors. But this is actually one of my best selling straps. When I make bags with this strap or cell phone straps, this is what sells, this color. I don't know if everybody loves this color, but there's my strap. I've already got my strap ready to go. So it's all stitched up, but I did at the beginning of the video explain to you how to do the strap in the bag, and we will, on my live, I will do the strap, explain the strap on my live. So now let me get my zipper pull back on. I'm not going to do the zipper end. I'm just going to do one of the little metal zipper ends. I think for a bag like this, I like to do metal zipper ends. There's nice fancy ones. I think it enhances a bag like this. Nothing wrong with the little tabs. I just feel like a bag of this style deserves a nice metal zipper tab at the end. And then some of the more like small bodies, small cross bodies can always withstand those little rectangular tabs. Okay, zipper is on. I'm going to tuck this in. So we've got that full effect. This will get trimmed down a little bit. I don't like them this long, but I will probably cut about 1.5 inches off of this and then put that on, and then in the end it'll probably just hang over just a little bit, in case anybody was wondering what I was going to do with that. All right, so I'm going to clip my strap on. I like that strap, that there's little double D-rings that I've got on the side too. That's kind of neat. Just clip this on, and then I will stand up. Let's get the camera up. Watch my, pardon my hand. I'm going to raise it up. Pardon my hand, pardon my room, pardon my mess. I have been just throwing things around because I've got too many things going on right now, but it's fine. I like to have too many things going on. All right, so there's my bag with my strap. Isn't that pretty? I really like that. All right, let's put it on. This is with my strap all the way to the edge. So nice shoulder bag. I mean, that's really, really pretty. Let's take it out. And you can see what it looks like as a crossbody. Now it's not all the way out. We still have some to go. If you want it lower, you can know, obviously we've got more give to get for it to go lower. You could put this on the back. I just clipped it on, but you can always put this on the back so you don't see that. I kind of like to wear mine in the front like that, but there you go. So there is my bag. And that's what it looks like and the size. I am, as you can tell, not a small person. So that's how it looks like to me. And so I've got the way I have my zipper where I can get it, easily access my bag like that. That's the way I like my zipper. And then zip it right back up. Gonna get a hold of it. There you go. That's a beautiful bag. All right. There's that one. Let's show the other one real quick in case we forgot my other one. This is with the nice hand sewn strap like that. These are both the same size. This one takes an extra second. The only thing, yeah, with these, the only thing is, and I even got an extra wide slider. So you just got to work these out a little bit. Oh. Two totally different bags. Looks, same bag, but two totally different looks. And that's what I love about this. Look at that. This one has the panels, the different look, like that. And then this one is a solid, and the panel is quilted in the center. Look at that. That's beautiful. All right, guys. So that's it. Please go get your pattern and the link that I have provided in my description. I am an affiliate, have affiliation with Petal Sewing Patterns, which means every time you purchase this pattern, I do get a little bit of money. That does help me out to be able to do more tutorials. So I appreciate it. If you do purchase this pattern, please click the link in my description. I also have Buy Me a Coffee. It's Ko-Fi, and it's ko-fi /quilted cactus. I'll put that in there. It's just a little support right now. All my tutorials, all my YouTube is currently still not being compensated or making any money off of YouTube. So that will just help me out. I'm trying to save to buy me a Mac computer versus my HP. I love my HP, but my Mac would go really well with my phone and my tablet to help with editing projects of that nature. So that's what I'm working for, trying to get me a Mac computer. So go get your pattern and buy me a coffee. I don't drink coffee, but hey, I'll take it. I'll start drinking coffee, right? So there we go. Guys, go get your pattern. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your patience. And be watching out for my scheduled live coming up within a week after this pattern is released. I can't wait to do this on a live, and my live, it will be a 75%, so it'll be a nice small crossbody. Can't wait. And I'll quilt the sides instead of the center. I will quilt the sides for my live on the small ones, so we can go over that during the live. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And everyone have a great day, a great evening, depending on what time you watch it. See ya. Bye.